Hey, what's going on? Welcome to Cleave to Antiquity. My name is Ben, and today we're going to be diving into another segment of This Week in Roman Catholic News. This one's going to be absolutely insane. Every single week that I do one of these, I think to myself, there is no way next week could top this week's segment. There is absolutely no way. And every single week, I am proven completely wrong. This week in Roman Catholic News is the craziest segment I've ever done on this show, and it is going to be absolutely insane. Let me get a W incense from my incense sniffers in the chat. I really appreciate you guys tuning in. I'm going to be covering a bunch of info this week. We're going to be talking about the SSPX. We're going to be talking about ICE. We're going to be talking about appointments of cardinals. We're going to be talking about the Epstein files. We're going to be talking about so much information, covering way more than just what was in the thumbnail. But it is going to be an absolutely crazy ride. I'm going to try to get through it all. It is just so much to get through. Yeah, absolutely. I think we're just waiting for Alex's stream to wrap up, and then everybody's going to be coming over here. I just wrapped up a good segment with him talking about the Pinesap versus Jay debacle. That was absolutely crazy. Maybe we can talk about that while we're waiting on the people to come in here, and then I'll dive into the news. But that was really funny. So basically, Jay Dyer calls in to the Pinesap live stream, or Pinesap was doing an X space, and Jay calls in to kind of correct him on some things. Because in the Epstein files, it basically says Pope John Paul II had Epstein living in the Vatican with him. So they ran a bunch of cover and stuff. We're going to talk about it a little in more detail during this live stream, but a bunch of Roman Catholics were trying to cover up this scandal like crazy. They all dived in. They all dove in. They were like, no, this is fake news. This is all fake. This is all fake. But it's not fake. It literally is what the files say. So I'll share this up on the screen. We'll watch the little clip here from the call in from Jay and Pinesap. Jay calls in to discuss this with him, and then he talks about contradictions in teaching in the Roman Catholic Church. So Jay calls in, absolutely bodies Pinesap on Skittles priests contradiction. Pinesap had no idea the document even existed. Let's take a look at that.
The fifth says that gay priests are to be put to death, and the Vatican bishops in Italy just said that gay priests can be gay, openly gay people can become priests. Is that a contradiction?
Actually, Pope Francis said that gay priests should not enter the clergy. This headline clipping belongs to TMZ,
no,
bro. This belongs to TMZ. Are you kidding me?
Italian bishops.
I'm not going to believe anything you say, Jay. You do this all the time, bro.
So there's the article right there. Vatican approves document allowing Skittles men to become priests in Italy. So if you want to watch more about this discussion, go check out that Alex Soren stream that I just wrapped up on. We were talking about this subject here. We dove into, you know what, I'll just do it again. Why not? We'll talk about it a little bit. So I pull up this document to show Pinesap had no idea what he's talking about. He didn't even know this document exists, yet he goes ahead right out the gate and says, Jay Dyer is just a liar. You're lying. This document doesn't exist. You are a liar. You're always making stuff up, Jay. Pinesap never even knew it existed. This is the modus operandi of the Roman Catholic Pope splainers. Okay. Trads don't do this, by the way. Most trads don't do this. This is the Pope splainers specifically. They hear scandal. Step one, automatic brain response. You're a liar. This is a lie. This is fake. We're going to pretend it doesn't exist. That's the only way that they can remain in their system for as long as they do, is by automatically saying, this is a lie. Day one, this is a lie. No hesitation, by the way. Had never heard about the document. Look at his response.
The clergy. This headline clipping belongs to TMZ, bro. This belongs to TMZ. Are you kidding me?
Italian bishops.
I'm not going to believe anything you say, Jay. You do this all the time, bro.
So you're lying. I'm not going to believe anything you say. That's the immediate response. No hesitation.
So what you say, what you go is you say, oh, okay, these gay bishops are allowed, or these gay priests are allowed. The Italian Bishops Conference, dude. Okay, let me say for a moment. Let me say you're not lying. Let me grant for a moment that you're not lying, which you most certainly are. Even if I was to grant, even if I was to grant that you're not lying, you're still a liar. Even if I was to grant you're not lying, this still doesn't disprove the Roman Catholic Church.
The argument is that this is a contradiction in teaching. So what Jay had said earlier was the earlier popes basically said if you were Skittles, you deserve, right? That was the official policy. Now they say you could be priests. So that's where the argument is. So he's saying, even if I were to grant that that's what the Italian bishop says, that doesn't disprove Roman Catholicism. Oh, well, you just have contradictions in your doctrine, right?
Even if I was to grant that a bishop's conference said something cringe, how does that disprove the church?
The fifth says that.
Yeah, this is crazy. Cleve, did you make this clip? It's awesome. Yeah, I did. I made that clip. Somebody clipped the whole 20-minute discussion and posted it on Jay's post on X. So if you don't watch the whole 20-minute discussion, go ahead. This was just a 1-minute little short teaser, the kill shot of this discussion. But I thought that was funny. So Pinesap goes ahead and he crashes out and he has a big cope fest about this information here. And before I even go in there, let's read what James Martin has to say on this subject. So James Martin talks about the subject of the Skittles priests being allowed into seminaries. And he says, wow, this is an amazing change. He says, even though there are these guidelines here, this is an amazing big innovation. We love this. Let's keep going. James Martin, if you don't know, he's a openly pro-Skittles Roman Catholic priest. This is his whole ministry is towards Skittles people. But this is what he says. He says, news. In a newly released document approved by the Vatican, the Italian Bishops' Conference has set out guidelines for seminary formation, including the question of whether Skittles men can be admitted to seminaries and therefore ordained as priests. It says those with quote-unquote deep-seated Skittles tendencies, those who cannot live chastely, and those who support the so-called Skittles culture cannot be admitted. This has always been the case, and deep-seated tendencies, quote-unquote, has been interpreted in different ways by bishops and seminary rectors. So he's saying it's a subjective teaching. He's like, deep-seated, it's all about how flamboyant you are, honey. If you flamboyant, you ain't getting in. So you just got to hide it a little bit. That's basically it. That's basically what he's saying. If you can hide it real well, you can get in, basically. So if it's super obvious, then they might not let you into seminary. But if it's a little less obvious, then you're good to go, which is evident by the documentary he talked about, I think just last week. It talks about 80% of clergy in the Roman Catholic Church are Skittles. 80%. That's what the documentary claims. Anyway, James Martin says, well, then it says something new. My translation. In the training process, when reference is made to Skittles tendencies, it's also appropriate not to reduce discernment only to this aspect, but as for every candidate to grasp its meaning in the overall picture of the young person's personality. So this isn't the only thing. So if there's other things that outweigh this, it's fine. That's what he's saying. So that by getting to know each other and integrating the objectives inherent to the human and presbyterial vocation reaches a general harmony. So if a person is Skittles, but the other things outweigh it, it's okay. That's basically what the document says. This is James Martin's commentary. This is the first time I've seen in a Vatican-approved document the suggestion that discernment about whether a Skittles man may enter seminary cannot simply be determined by his Skittles orientation. This is a new thing. This is what James Martin is saying. This is brand new. Even though it says they have to live chastely, that's already a requirement for priests, period. Right? So that's nothing new, right? But the fact that they're saying, look, if you're Skittles, but as long as you promise to live chaste, you're okay. This is new. This is a new thing. Okay. My reading of this, and it's only my reading, is that if a Skittles man is able to lead a healthy, chaste, and celibate life, he may be considered for admission to the seminary. So as I see it, this is something of a step forward. And then he links the actual document. So this is the statement by James Martin talking about what was being discussed in the Jay Dyer call-in there just a moment ago. Feels guy, Pinesap, says, tell the full story, little man. So these guys just lie. I mean, Pinesap, all of these Pope explainers just lie. That's what they do. They try to cover up scandal. They try to say the church doesn't actually teach what it teaches. They try to say that they know it better than their own hierarchs, so on and so forth. This is what he says. He posts, and it's crazy. If you just watch that clip, he accuses Jay of like farming the titles like TMZ. What does he do? He posts just the title of an article here. Vatican did not release Skittles priests. Understand the quote-unquote Italian CNBB document. So I post what is actually in the document there and what the correction article says about it, okay? Exactly what James Martin said. While profoundly, this is the quote unquote clarification document. While profoundly respecting the persons in question, cannot admit to the seminary or to holy orders those who practice Skittles. So they got to be celibate? Yeah, duh. That's what James Martin just said. Present deep-seated Skittles tendencies or support the so-called Skittles culture. Such persons, in fact, find themselves in a situation that gravely hinders them from relating correctly to men and women. This is literally what James Martin just said. So how is this a correction? You're just taking the title of an article without reading it at all, posting it and saying, this debunks what you said. These guys just lie. That's all they do. It's absolutely insane. So he says, Jay referenced a nothing burger from last year we long debunked. Hence why he crops out the headline date in his post. Focus on that hairline instead of lying through your teeth. Oh, he got me, dude. I'm so bald, dude. He got me. It's over. It's over. Let me get spam. It's over in the chat. It's over. But anyway, I say by long debunked, you mean a quote unquote clarification after the fact that says they won't be allowing flamboyant, obviously practicing Skittles people in, but defend their statement regarding allowing Skittles people in general to become priests. Too long didn't read. Yeah, we're letting them in, but not like if they're super obvious about it. So this is the level of deception that they're rising to. They don't care, dude. They don't care. Anything to defend the cult. That's all it is. He had no idea what this document was 5 seconds ago. Okay. I posted a clip at 4:46. This was not that long after the discussion. Maybe, I don't know. I think his X space was still going. And then he comments almost immediately after. He didn't even know this document existed. He's just reading headlines. He's not doing any research. He's doing the exact same thing that he is accusing Jay of doing. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I thought that was kind of funny. That was a really funny interaction. But yeah, it's over. It's over. That's right. Yeah, crazy. All right, well, I'm going to dive into some of the news. So I've got quite a bit of news to share with y'all today. This week has been a crazy week in Roman Catholic news. Absolutely insane. If you like these live streams where I go through Roman Catholic news and break these things down and keep you apprised of the most recent happenings in the Roman Catholic Church, show some appreciation. Help me reach the super chat goal. I do have a super chat goal of 15 super chats for this stream. So if you want to help me out, I really appreciate it. It helps me continue to make great videos just like this. All right, so I'm going to pull up my first article. I've got a lot to share with y'all before I get to the Epstein stuff. So strap in, because this has been an absolute insane week for the Roman Catholic Church. So we're going to dive in, starting with some of the ICE statements, which are crazy. First article here that we're going to dive into, despite pleas from residents, Roman Catholic Archdiocese of Barcelona calls those who oppose illegal immigration xenophobes. So you're going to see a lot on this anti-ICE stuff from Barcelona. You're going to see a lot of this anti-ICE stuff from Spain. I'm going to dive into an article after this at some point that talks about how Spain just naturalized hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. And guess who supported this? Many of the same bishops that are saying this stuff here. So very interesting. The Archdiocese of Barcelona calls xenophobes the residents who oppose illegal immigration and squatting. Let's read the article. I'm going to go ahead and pull it up. The Archdiocese of Barcelona calls xenophobes the residents who oppose illegal immigration and squatting. This week's Sunday bulletin from the Archdiocese of Barcelona does not limit itself to informing. It points out with a loaded, thick, morally infamous word, xenophobes. This is how it labels, without nuances, those who oppose the presence of illegal immigrants housed in the B9 in Barcelona. Not criminals, not traffickers, not mafias, not administrations that look the other way. No, xenophobes, the neighbors. So these people are not happy that the government is placing illegal immigrants in a housing complex that is terrorizing the neighborhood. And when they file complaints, what do the Roman Catholic bishops in this area say? You guys are just bigoted xenophobes. Ridiculous. The scene is already known. A popular neighborhood, an occupied or enabled facility without consensus, a disorderly arrival of people in an irregular situation, coexistence problems, fear, tension, and response to that, citizens who protest, some rightly, all others perhaps clumsily, but citizens after all. From the Episcopal Palace, far away from the doorway that opens at dawn in the elevator that stops working, the response is simple: moral reproach, the seal, the label, xenophobia. This is not the church's social doctrine. It is ideological rhetoric. Yeah, absolutely. Because opposing illegal and uncontrolled immigration is not hating the foreigner. It is stating a fact. Without law, there is no charity, and without order, there is no possible welcome. The church has always taught this, so on and so forth. So they're saying basically the historic teaching of the church doesn't match with what the modern bishops are saying. The modern bishops are saying, we love the illegals. We love the migrants. Keep them here, and if you oppose them being here, well, then you're xenophobic. Why they're doing that? Well, we'll get into that a little later. It has a lot to do with funding. We've actually covered this in the American context. A lot of the Catholic charities, right, received U.S. aid, and they also got paid quite a bit for importing Somalians. The Roman Catholic NGOs, as well as Lutheran NGOs, got paid over $2,000 per Somali they helped to import into the United States. Similar deals have been made with other governments, and they serve to import these people into their countries because this is what they're involved in. It is a massive human trafficking scheme, okay? If that gives you any indication as to the information that we're going to get into later. Anyway, thus the bishop does not confront the real problem, the political irresponsibility, the collapse of services, the abandonment of neighborhoods, but blames the neighbor, the one who lives there, the one who pays, the one who suffers the consequence. Basically, they're saying, suck it up. We don't care. We're going to continue to help import illegal immigrants into your neighborhoods, flood you with migrants. It doesn't matter. If you don't like it, you're xenophobic. You just hate the foreigner. You're not a Christian. You're a bad person. So that's basically it. This particular article was just about the statement of the Archdiocese of Barcelona, but there are several statements that have been made very recently on the subject of ICE. So let me see if I can pull up an additional one. This brings us into our next story here on the same subject. Agrello applauds the government while the faithful people are scandalized. So recently, this last week, the Spanish government actually naturalized hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants. And this was done with the assistance and approval and support the Roman Catholic bishops. Okay. Yet another one to toss onto the Roman Catholicism supports mass immigration pile. Despite the protests of Roman Catholic citizens, Monsignor Luis Agrello celebrates the Spanish government's decree to naturalize illegal immigrants. If this is any kind of indicator or hint as to what is going to potentially happen in the United States if we allow Catholic charities, USCCB to run amok, if Christian nationalism succeeds under the Roman Catholic framework, this is what we have to look forward to, because this is what the modern Roman Catholic Church is pushing and supports. Let's dive into the article. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. Agrello applauds the government while the faithful people are scandalized. It's not a feeling. It's not a diffuse discomfort amplified by social networks. It is a real, deep, and increasingly obscene fracture, the one that separates a good part of the Spanish episcopate from the faithful people it claims to shepherd. The latest episode has once again put everything in evidence. The president of the Spanish Episcopal Conference, Monsignor Luis Agrello, appears to celebrate the government's royal decree on the extraordinary regularization of illegal immigrants. And he does so in language straight out of the executive's political playbook. Democratic health, political opportunity, organized society, common good, subsidiarity. Yes, subsidiarity. They are subsidizing the importation of these illegals and migrants and refugees. Of course, that's what it's really all about. It's about the bottom line. It's about maintaining your massive human trafficking scheme. No explicit reference to moral law, no warning about the objective disorder that massive uncontrolled immigration entails, no reminder of the state's duties regarding borders, security, or justice, just applause. Okay. This is not just another prudential opinion within the legitimate Catholic pluralism. It's something more serious. The public identification of the ecclesiastical hierarchy with a political power. He's saying they support this. This is what they're saying. We are on the side of immigration. We are on the side of pro-immigration. We want migrants in. This is the church's opinion. Okay. That systematically legislates against Catholic doctrine on essential matters. A government that promotes unaliving babies as a right, normalizing unaliving adults, destroys the family, indoctrinates in gender ideology, persecutes the conscientious objection, and before that government, the president of the CEE does not raise his voice to correct, but smiles to accompany. He's approving of all of this. He loves it. These people are being naturalized. They're no longer illegals. Now they have rights. And guess what comes with that? More financial stability. And guess what comes with that? Especially if they're from majority Roman Catholic countries. Oh, well, that's more tithes in our pocket. Not only are we being subsidized to bring them in the first place, but we're receiving their collection on Sunday morning. So we love this. This is great. And they happen to be more liberal 9 times out of 10. So that just helps to push their agenda more. Meanwhile, on the other side, the faithful people are boiling. Parish priests, religious, committed laity, families who continue to go to mass, who educate their children in the faith, who financially sustain the church, no longer recognizing their pastors, the language or priorities of the gospel. They see a hierarchy more concerned with not bothering those in power than with confirming their own in the faith, etc. You get the point. Okay. So this is going to talk about how they're tied to NGOs, so on and so forth. We will get this more information when we get into the Epstein files, because all of this ties together. Okay. All of this ties together. The push for more migrants, the push for more refugees, the push for naturalization of illegal immigration, illegal immigrants. This is all part of a greater scheme. Okay. So anyway, it's not that this statement by them is a little ignorant. Spanish episcopate seems not to understand. Oh, they understand plenty, or to not want to understand. That's more accurate. That its authority does not come from closeness to power, but its fidelity to Christ. Well, it's a big human trafficking scheme. Basically, they don't care about any of that. They care about money. They care about power. They care about continuing to receive subsidiary funding. They want to fund their NGOs, which lines the pockets of the bishops. That's really what it's all about. Has nothing to do with doctrine, has everything to do with making money and continuing to be funded in that way. Father Tim says, what do they expect? Even celibate openly Skittles to teach about this stuff? Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Well, we're going to see even more of this. As we've seen in the last couple of shows that I've done, the vast majority of the appointments that have been made to these upper echelon positions, the cardinalate, the heads of dicasteries, are all people from a pro-Skittles background, are all people that support things that are very dubious, things that you would not expect a traditional Roman Catholic to support. But these are the people that are getting promoted. So this is not some kind of fringe thing. This is something that we see happening on a regular basis. I'll dive into one such appointment here, which should be scandalizing to a lot of different people. But for whatever reason, they don't seem to care too much. Let's dive into it. Breaking. Roman Catholic University Notre Dame appoints pro-unaliving babies professor Susan Osterman to lead its Asian Studies Institute. She has called pro-life laws, quote-unquote, violence and SA. Abortion, I don't want to say that because it'll take my stream down. Unaliving babies is not compatible with Roman Catholicism. No Christian school should employ people who teach or encourage unaliving babies. So this is the person that just got the appointment. I think the article was linked in here. If not, I have it linked somewhere else. Okay, yeah, I do have it linked somewhere else. Let me pull that up real quick. Stop sharing my screen. I'll pull up the article. But that's what we're going to discuss next, is this shocking appointment of a pro-unaliving babies teacher to this Roman Catholic University. Hold on. There you go. All right, let's see if I can share this screen real quick. This is from Complicit Clergy. Let me go ahead and pull this up on the screen. Notre Dame appoints unaliving babies advocate director of Liu Institute. The Co-School of Global Affairs announced its recent appointment of unaliving babies activist Susan Osterman as the incoming director of its Liu Institute for Asia and Asian Studies, beginning July 1st. Osterman, an associate professor of global affairs and political science, has written multiple national opinion articles advocating for increased unaliving babies access. These are the people that are going to be teaching the next generation of Roman Catholics. Okay, these are the people educating them in their Roman Catholic universities, arguing that unaliving babies saves women's lives. This is what she has stated. These are the people who are getting put into these positions. Hired by Notre Dame in 2017 as one of the first professors for the new Co-School, Osterman studies state capacity, coercion, and law with a focus on South Asia. She teaches courses for both undergraduate and law school students, according to course records available to students. So she's been there. She's known, but she's being appointed to head this very important position. Osterman gained the attention of the Notre Dame community in 2022 when the president, Father John Jenkins, wrote a rejection of Osterman's pro-unaliving work in the Chicago Tribune. Osterman's article titled "Lies About Unaliving Babies Have Dictated Our Health Policy" was co-authored by former Notre Dame professor Tamara Kay, who left the university after unsuccessfully suing the Irish Rover for defamation after the student newspaper covered her offers of illegal unaliving babies access to students. So basically giving them these unaliving baby pills illegally. So these people are sickos. They want to do this behind people's backs. They want to give them the medication to help do this themselves, so on and so forth. These are the people being promoted to director of the Liu Institute. This is the future of the Roman Catholic Church. Unaliving baby advocacy. And she was already known. She was already known by the school. They wrote articles against this stuff. Well, I guess it didn't matter too much because she got a promotion. So crazy. All right. Rome is a circus at this point. Yeah. It's getting rough. It's getting real rough. People voted on me changing the sound asset to no longer be the scream, but I haven't found a new sound to use. I gotta do some research and see what else to use. People were responding in the chat with that. What did I say? I had a suggestion on Alex's stream. I got to figure it out. Anyway. All right, let's continue on because I got a lot to cover. Thank you for supporting the show. I appreciate the $5 super chat. I'm going to go ahead and I'll just use the screams for this one. That'll give you one scream. I'll find a new one. Yeah, keep the scream. Keep the scream. The scream is cool. Yeah, I feel like you need the scream for the Catholic news segment alone. Yeah, absolutely. Cleave to screams. That's right. All right. Well, yeah, I'll use the scream one for these streams for now until I find a better sound. Here's an interesting one. We'll dive into some Orthodox news. So a little bit of a palate cleanser from the insanity that is the Roman Catholic world. We're going to get into some awesome statements by Metropolitan Saba. So let's dive into this. I'm going to pull this up on the screen. Some good news. Some good news for now. UOJ America reports in a wide-ranging theological reflection, Metropolitan Saba has outlined the enduring role of apologetic theology as a vital discipline for the church's life and witness in every age. He explained that apologetics responds to error, clarifies the nature of the true faith, presents Christianity faithfully to both believers and critics. Well, you know what's funny? Orthodox Luigi made a post about this, and he was like, somebody needs to tell him that debating is evil or whatever. Like, you shouldn't be debating as Orthodox. You shouldn't be doing apologetics, so on and so forth. Here's our Metropolitan. Metropolitan Saba doesn't miss. He always gives awesome takes. So he definitely understands what it's like on the ground and that we need to have some kind of active witness in these circles here. I'm going to pull up the actual article. We'll dive into exactly what he said here. Metropolitan Saba, why apologetic theology still matters. Again, for those of you that don't know, Metropolitan Saba is over the Antiochian Orthodox jurisdiction in America. All right, so in a wide-ranging theological reflection, Metropolitan Saba has outlined the enduring role of apologetic theology as a vital discipline for the church's life and witness in every age. He explained that apologetic theology responds to error, so calls out the errors, clarifies the nature of the true faith, so presents orthodoxy, and presents Christianity faithfully, so it's a faithful way to present Christianity to both believers and critics. So this is a faithful way, so doing apologetics is a faithful way to present Christianity to both believers and to critics, people that don't agree with us, presenting this to Roman Catholics, presenting this to Protestants. Tracing its roots to the apostolic era, Metropolitan Saba noted that apologetics emerged as the church confronted heresies, cultural misunderstandings, and moral distortions. He cited the Apostle Paul's engagement with Greek philosophy in Athens and the diversity of the four Gospels as early examples of adapting the proclamation of faith to different audiences. Addressing the modern world, he warned against withdrawal from dialogue. Don't withdraw from dialogue. Continue to have these dialogues. This is what our metropolitans are saying. These are needed. We have to continue to witness to the heterodox. We have to continue to proclaim the gospel. We have to continue to do these apologetic arguments. We have to continue to lay out and witness to the true faith, which is the Orthodox Church. These are our metropolitans. And you would have people lead you to believe that our metropolitans and our hierarchs do not want people doing this kind of stuff, do not want people engaging in apologetic arguments. Well, here you go. Somebody needs to tell Metropolitan Saba this, I guess. No, this is needed. Metropolitan Saba never misses. We love. Let me get a W. W Metropolitan Saba in the chat. Let me get a W. W Metropolitan Saba. Anyway, Metropolitan Saba argued the church must continue engaging philosophy, science, culture to explain the faith meaningfully, especially to the younger generations. Absolutely. Emphasizing that apologetic theology remains essential for how long? As long as the church exists. Essential. Apologetics endorsed by our metropolitans. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful thing. Yes, absolutely. Love my bishop. W. Glory to God. W. Absolutely. Ortho, SCT, W, Metropolitan Saba. Way to flex the Antiochian C key. That's right. You know what? I'm not going to do a scream for that. I'll do applause. How about that? Yes, let's go. Metropolitan Saba. He had a great talk, by the way, not that long ago, discussing the need for online presence, the need for evangelization, that we are in the era of evangelization. We are moving away from the immigrant church. We are in the era of evangelization. And here you go, Metropolitan Saba with another excellent take. Saying that it is essential to continue to engage in apologetics, particularly against those who oppose the faith. Okay? Especially to those who oppose the faith. So there you go. Perfectly. Presents Christianity faithfully to both believers and to critics of the faith. So excellent take. A good palate cleanser there. Some good news for once on this show. But again, common Metropolitan Saba win. Very, very good take here. Really appreciate what he has to say on these subjects. It's awesome. It's awesome to have support of your hierarchs. And I feel like that is one of the biggest differences between the Roman Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church. The Roman Catholic Church constantly counter signals their laity. The Orthodox Church constantly fosters greater understanding, and growth amongst those who are coming to the church. So very cool, very awesome. All right, let's dive into the next story here. So back to the subject of ICE. back to the subject of immigration in the Roman Catholic Church. There are a number of articles that have come out recently discussing this, and I'm going to try to find this one real quick and we'll dive into it. Here you go. So many of the Cardinals have called, many of the American Cardinals have called for the defunding of ICE, for the abolition of ICE. Why is this? Well, that's because they support illegal immigration. That's really it. They help get these people into the country. They don't want them to go. These are their future pawns. These are their future tithe givers, so on and so forth. They're easier to, traffic into different other situations. So they don't want ICE to do their job. They want illegal immigrants to stay. So let's take a look at some of these statements here. Another one to toss onto the Roman Catholic Church supports mass immigration pile. Catholic Arena reports, breaking, Cardinal Tobin has called for the defunding of ICE. We ask, this is his quote, we ask for the love of God and the love of human beings, which can't be separated. Vote against renewing funding for such a lawless organization. So he's saying, he's basically telling you how to vote, by the way, which you're really not supposed to engage in. But anyway, as a religious institution, it happens anyway. But this gives our critics ammunition to basically say that, churches shouldn't be tax exempt. Anyway, we ask for the love of God and for the love of human beings, which can't be separated. Vote against the renewing of funding for such a lawless organization. So Cardinals of the Roman Catholic Church in the United States, who receive funding, by the way, to import these people into the country, are rallying against ICE. We've seen this quite a bit in recent days. We saw this over Nativity. We saw this during Christmas, where they had nativity scenes of Jesus disappearing and ICE having had deported Jesus. They called Jesus an illegal immigrant. All this type of rhetoric. We're starting to see this ramp up. Now the Cardinals are weighing. Yeah, this is Cardinal Tobin. The producer from Avoiding Babylon, Rob, posts this. This was a tweet from Cardinal Tobin in 2018. He didn't realize he was posting to X, and he thinks he's sending a text, and he wasn't. He said, supposed to be airborne in 10 minutes. Nighty night, baby. I love you. These guys are supposed to be celibate, but he's texting somebody, nighty night, baby. I love you. Yeah, he identifies who this person was. Okay. TLM Ryan comments, was it sent to a woman or a young male seminarian? Producer from Avoiding Babylon is a traditional Roman Catholic. It was most likely meant for Francesco Castellone, a young Italian actor who was living in the rectory at the time. Surprise, surprise. More Skittles clergy in the Roman Catholic Church. This is literally the only thing I know him for, is the nighty night. The nighty night tweet. Supposed to be airborne in 10 minutes. Nighty night, baby. I love you. to this male Italian actor that was living in the rectory of his church at the time. Wow. So that's what he's known for. 2018. That was a tweet. It was supposed to be a text. But anyway, calling for the abolition of ICE. Don't fund ICE anymore. Stop it. We need to keep these illegals in the country. So defund ICE. Good grief, dude. What a mess. And he's still in position, by the way. Nothing happened here. Father Stephen DeYoung had a good point in the last live stream. He said, the difference isn't that there are scandals. It's how the scandals are handled. In the Orthodox Church, these people get defrocked. We take them out of their positions where they can no longer harm people. Here, they get promoted. They get made freaking cardinal, and they get to spout nonsense about keeping illegal immigrants in the country. They get rewarded for being more degenerate, it seems like. With each of these appointments, that seems to be the case. We just talked about this in one of the last news articles that we covered, where they are promoting a pro-unaliving babies person to director of this Institute of Asian Studies in a Roman Catholic university. And they were aware of this woman's views. They actually decried them. Well, decrying them isn't enough. You actually have to kick them out, fire them, get them out of their positions, not give them promotions. Good grief. But this is what seems to be happening in the Roman Catholic Church. Nobody seems to care about it. It's insane. Orthodoxy undefeated 2 millennia. That's right. I'm going to give you a scream for that. We undefeated. That's right. Absolutely. Yeah, we actually handled the scandals. We handled them. We defrocked the people who scandalized the church. It's absolutely insane. This is what's going on. All right. Another one in the same subject here. A little bit of a clarification, deeper dive into this topic. So multiple different cardinals are calling for ICE to be shut down. Leftist cardinals, Cupich and Tobin, are quick to speak out on immigration, but are silent in upholding church doctrine. Let's take a look at this. This is from LifeSite News. Cardinals Tobin, Cupich, and other bishops sound off about Minnesota while ignoring doctrinal abuses. So they're saying they're basically supporting the craziness that's going on in Minnesota. Keep that in mind here. These are Roman Catholic cardinals that are saying the riots that are going on in Minnesota, you know, the ones where the ICE officers get their fingers bitten off, the ones where people are being attacked in the street, the ones where people who aren't even ICE officers are being jumped in the street. Woohoo! These are all great. We love that you're doing this. They're calling out in support of this. They're saying ICE shouldn't even be there. They should be defunded. Keep the illegals there. You know what? Violence is fine as long as it's on the right side. You know what I'm saying? As long as you are undermining Trump, you know what I'm saying? As long as you are undermining the things that threaten our human trafficking operation, it's fine. No big deal. Pro-Skittles prelates have shown their willingness to take sides politically on social justice issues, particularly with the Minnesota unrest. So you have Cupich and Tobin, Nighty Night Tobin, and Cupich here, pro-Skittles prelates, pro-Skittle, think about that for a second. Pro-Skittles cardinals. These are hierarchs in the Roman Catholic Church, about as high up as you can get without being the Pope himself. And they're openly pro-Skittles. Tobin is well known for what I just showed you. Nighty night, sweetie. I love you. To a male Italian actor. And he's still in his position. And yet Pinesap wants to say, oh, no, that's not the case. We don't have any openly Skittles clergy. We don't have any openly Skittles people in seminaries. You guys are just lying, dude. This is ridiculous at this point. Anyway, LifeSite News. A growing number of clergy are weighing in on what is taking place in Minnesota. If only they were as concerned with upholding the purity of church doctrine as they are with commenting on current events, the church wouldn't be in the mess that it is. I completely agree. Earlier this month, New Jersey Cardinal Joseph Tobin added his name to a joint letter along with pro-Skittles Cardinals Blaise Cupich, Robert McElroy. Among other things, they denounced President Donald Trump for cutting funds for overseas programs. Okay, cutting funds. This was the USAID scam, where the Roman Catholic Church was taking a bunch of money from USAID to import illegal immigrants. Okay, they're still getting funding from other sources, but this was specifically USAID we're talking about under the DOGE program. They found out that Catholic Charities, that the USCCB, that several of these organizations were receiving tons of funding, basically for importing migrants. This is what they were making money off of, while complaining that the U.S. was failing to provide moral leadership across the world. Like other social justice clergy, Tobit has focused his rage on the situation in Minnesota in recent days. During an online interreligious prayer event Monday titled National Faith Call to Action, Tobit urged his listeners to say no to what is taking place in the state. One way that we say no is that we mourn. We do not celebrate death, and that what is probably worse, we don't pretend it doesn't happen. We mourn for a world, a country that allows 5-year-olds to be legally kidnapped and protesters to be slaughtered. Yet that's exactly what you're freaking doing. That's what you're supporting, a massive human trafficking operation. But they're saying that the ICE agents bringing the 5-year-old safely into custody because the parents were being arrested and then taking care of the kid, that's somehow evil. But being engaged in a massive human trafficking operation isn't. They don't care. These people are evil. Tobin was referencing the case of Liam Ramos, a boy who was recently placed in a detention center along with his father, an Ecuadorian man who, according to ABC News, has a pending asylum case against him. Contrary to Tobin's claim, Ramos was not kidnapped. On January 20th, ICE conducted a targeted operation to address Adrian, so on and so forth, an illegal alien from Ecuador. You get the point. I don't need to dive into this any deeper. You get the point. I'm sure everybody's familiar with this case by now. All the leftists were crashing out about it. But this is what the Cardinals are supporting. They're saying they're supporting the liberals that are rioting against ICE. They're supporting Minnesota. They really, really, really don't want the United States to push back on this, because they know the more they push back, the less funding the Roman Catholic Church is going to get through programs like Catholic Charities and the USCCB. Now, I've pulled this up on the previous stream, but I'll go ahead and do this again now in case there's anybody new watching here. But the USCCB gets paid to import migrants into the United States. They say it on their mission statement page. This is their goal, to receive maximum funding to import the maximum amount of illegal immigrants. Or I guess in that case, they would be refugees. USCCB remigration, or no, not remigration, migration, refugee. That's what it is. Refugee resettlement. Let me pull this up and I'll share my screen. This is from the USCCB website. Funding, financing it. Hold on. Funding, there you go. Funding the refugee program. Share this page instead. Boom, here you go. USCCB position. This is their mission statement. USCCB engages with the federal appropriations process to obtain the maximum amount of funding needed to support the U.S. refugee program, which provides both overseas assistance and resettlement services to refugees. Each year, the USCCB advocates for funding levels that maximize the number of refugees assisted overseas and resettled into the United States. This is why they push back against this stuff so hard, because they make money resettling migrants into the United States. You're upset about the Minnesota thing? Well, guess what? All of those people were migrants. They're all refugees. They were all brought in on these type of grants through these NGOs, through the USCCB, through Catholic Charities, so on and so forth. So that's why they're pushing back on this stuff so much. That's why they really want to bring in more and more refugees, because they make money doing it. All right, this isn't some kind of mystery. This is what they state openly on their freaking website, dude. Okay. So this is going to tie in more and more. I forgot to turn on the subscribers thing, by the way. So if you want to support the channel, become a subscriber, subscribe to the channel. If you want to support the channel even more, become a member. Hey, Octavian with the 5 gifted. Appreciate you, man. Octavian coming in clutch with the 5 gifted. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. I do videos for my members, by the way, on this stuff. I don't do the thing where I'll put my videos that I normally upload to members only first. I produce unique content for my members. So if you want to check that stuff out, I go into detail on some of this stuff. All right. I was already breaking down the cope response of Cameron Riker for my members not that long ago. So I appreciate it. 5 Cleave to Antiquity memberships. That'll give you 1 screen. Thank you so much. Again, if you want to help support the show, I do have a super chat goal for this stream. Help me reach the super chat goal. I really appreciate it. Cleve versus Pope Leo. I got to see the debate. Debating Pope Leo on his pro-immigration stance. How about that? I would do a debate on that. That'd be fun. All right, let's continue on. So a lot of stuff on this who's Clark Carl? We'll have Clark Carlton on. Yeah. Anyway, let's continue. All right, so I'm going to continue on. I've got more stories to cover here. So we're talking about cover-up culture in the Roman Catholic Church and how they're very quick to cover up these scandals. They don't want you to know about this stuff. All right. Pinesap, we had a live discussion with Jay Dyer. Immediately when he heard something that would cast the church in a poor light, his first thing was to say, that's a lie. He didn't even know about the document. He said, that's a lie. It's fake news. You're lying. You always lie. He didn't even need to know anything about the document in order to immediately attempt to cover it up. This is what the Roman Catholic Church has trained these Pope-splainers to do, basically, subconsciously. By having the number of scandals that they have, And by not addressing them at all, they have forced them into this position where they have to enter into cognitive dissonance. Everything that the opposition has to say, everything that even trads are pointing out, everything that all of these news articles are stating have to be complete lies. So we're going to try to cover them up as much as possible. The problem with that is it puts families in danger. I don't know about you, but I actually care about Roman Catholic kids. I don't want bad things to happen to them. And I don't want people to waste all of their time, their lives, their money, their relationships, to uproot their lives from Protestantism, to enter into a fake idea of what they think the Roman Catholic Church is. But the cover-up culture is extensive. And that's the subject of the next article that we're going to talk about. Utah Vicar General allegedly purged documents that could cast clergy in a poor light. Let's dive into this. So this is common, this cover-up culture. We see this in the Roman Catholic Church quite often. And this comes to light. This is from complicit clergy. Utah Vicar General allegedly purges documents that could cast clergy in a poor light. This is from the Salt Lake Tribune. This is on subject of SA. William Hamilton alleged last year that he was abused as a teen by a priest in Utah. An assertion by the Diocese of Salt Lake City later deemed, quote-unquote, credible. Now Hamilton contends the diocese has confirmed to him a wider issue. A powerful cleric occasionally destroyed documents in the personnel files of priests. Monsignor J. Terrence Fitzgerald, the diocese's longtime vicar general, told multiple priests about his purges of information that could cast clergy in a poor light. According to Robert Moriarty, a former priest in the diocese, I came to assume this practice was common knowledge. Moriarty, a friend of Hamilton, wrote in a letter provided last summer to the diocese internal review board during its investigation. In a meeting earlier this month, Hamilton said Bishop Oscar Solis told him that the diocese found, quote-unquote, credible the allegation that Fitzgerald had destroyed documents, and that its conclusions would never be made public. So let me break this down for you. So not only did they find the abuse allegations to be credible, but they also found the allegations that the Vicar General destroyed documents that could have been used to protect kids, that could have been used to protect these people from being abused, right? Those were also destroyed. That was a credible claim, according to the diocese. But what was the way that they wanted to handle it? Conclusions would never be made public. It took lay people to call this stuff out. It took people that were not associated to call this stuff out and to bring this to light. It took whistleblowers to call this stuff out. Not the appropriate channels, but the whistleblowers. So the diocese says its conclusions would never be made public. Such secrecy perpetuates harm rather than healing, Hamilton said in a statement. It denies justice and transparency, deepens the wounds borne by survivors of clergy SA, and further undermines the moral credibility of the church. Absolutely. You know what a good way to handle this stuff would be? Acknowledge it, defrock the guy, and kick him out of the priesthood. How about that? Kick any clergy that are complicit with this stuff out of the priesthood. The Vicar General, fired, deposed, gone. That's how this stuff needs to happen. Anytime people are sharing these Orthodox scandals, quote unquote Orthodox scandals from 2016, from 10 years ago, okay, from 5 years ago, from 20 years ago, you know what it always says? Was defrocked, was deposed, was fired. Okay. Now that might take a year, right? That might take some time because they're afforded a trial to figure out if it's good or not. So you might find, I don't know, some case from this year or something where the person hasn't been deposed yet, but they've been taken out of public ministry. You might find that. But any of these older cases that the Roman Catholics like to throw up as some kind of a red herring to look over here, don't look at our problem, look over here. You know what it says? Deposed, defrocked, fired. That's the way this stuff needs to happen. We have to continue to call it out. Michael Lofton's diocese was going to move a priest that was convicted of torturing cats to death into public ministry and place him over a parish. Do you know what stopped that? people calling this stuff out. Roman Catholics, stop trying to cover up your scandals. I respect the trads that call this stuff out. People like Anthony Stein, people like Anthony from Avoiding Babylon, people like Timothy Gordon, people like Rob from Avoiding Babylon. I respect these people because they actually call out the issues. My main thing, dude, if you're going to be Roman Catholic, at least try to clean up the house a bit, because I don't want kids going through this stuff. How about that? It's as simple as that. And you're right, scandal doesn't disprove the church, but it sure does make your clergy seem really untrustworthy. And it might make you think twice about placing your kids in their care, especially if you love your kids, right? Which becomes an even greater issue with what we're about to talk about next. Because there are only so many places that you can go that are somewhat of a safe haven within the Roman Catholic Church. But recent news that has come to light today, actually breaking today, kind of hurts this exact sentiment within the Roman Catholic Church, because there's only so many places you can go. So normally, this is a huge issue within the Novus Ordo, abuses and so on and so forth, especially liturgical abuses. The SA abuse thing is kind of another subject, but the liturgical abuses of the Novus Ordo, so on and so forth, people will typically run to like a TLM Mass, okay, or they'll become uniate, but almost none of these people that you see online are attending a Novus Ordo parish. They're either attending one of these two. Well, those options are about to become a lot slimmer. The SSPX, which is probably arguably the largest traditional Roman Catholic set of parishes within the Roman Catholic Church, announces July 1st, 2026, they will consecrate new bishops without Vatican approval, which will be an official act of schism after having made a request of Pope Leo in August, and whose answer was not to their liking. So we're about to see a massive schism in the Roman Catholic Church. Less traditional Latin Mass parishes, the SSPX, will probably no longer be in communion with the Roman Catholic Church after they consecrate new bishops. This is actually an automatic excommunication. We'll see how that actually pans out. A little bit of backstory for those of you that don't know. The SSPX was actually started this way. Shortly after Vatican II, the SSPX was formed. They consecrated bishops, basically because Archbishop Lefebvre was saying something along the lines of, hey, Pope, please give us some bishops so we can continue to do these traditional masses, so on and so forth. We're not happy with the innovations of Vatican II, but whatever. Please give us some bishops so we can continue these masses. The papacy at the time basically drug their feet. They were going to wait until he was dead. Okay. He caught on to this, so they went ahead and consecrated 4 anyway. All right. This became a huge issue. Now they are they're in communion with the Roman Catholic Church, but they're considered like illicit or something. But there was a recent statement not too long ago that made it pretty clear that it was okay to attend an SSPX church, to give them your tithes, so on and so forth. But now it's probably not going to be the case. Leo is not allowing them to consecrate new bishops. The reason they need to, by the way, is because it all basically hinges on the Pope. It's supposed to be the Pope is the one that gives you the A-OK to consecrate bishops. Pope Leo does not like trads, though. In the most recent the Cardinal meeting that we were just talking about, the homework that they had to study was a document by Pope Francis, which called traditional Roman Catholics Pharisees. He wants the traditional Latin Mass gone. He does not like trads. He wants them relegated to the waste bin of history. So to see this is no surprise that he would deny the request. The reason that they need more bishops, by the way, is because out of the 4 initial bishops that were consecrated, all right, at the SSPX's formation, only 2 are left alive. Okay. And the 2 that are remaining are very old. So if they pass away, guess what happens to the SSPX? Now they're reliant on external bishops. They no longer have their own bishops. And what can those external bishops do? Imply the same restrictions that we see in other places, like Christian Wagner's diocese, where they basically have outlawed altar rails and have just about outlawed the traditional Latin Mass. So this is what they want to have happen to the SSPX. The SSPX is saying, well, you know what? If you're going to do that, then we'll call your bluff. You know, if you're not going to allow us to consecrate new bishops and you're going to make us rely on yours, well, then we're just going to do it anyway. We'll see what happens. If that means you declare us as schismatics, whatever, who cares? They're calling their bluff. Basically, it's the same thing that the German bishops are doing right now. There might be a big schism in Germany where they are going to move to a more synodal model, and it's going to be a vote-based system for their doctrine. Okay, the majority of the German bishops support basically same-sex marriage. So what do you think the first thing that they're going to vote on is going to be? Probably something like that, right? But they're all these bishops. They don't really respect Pope Leo. They don't really respect the papacy. They see that he's very lenient. He doesn't address the scandals. So you know what they say? We'll try our luck. We'll see if he actually does anything. The thing that sucks about the trads is they probably don't realize this. Leo actually hates the trads. So he probably will excommunicate them. He'll excommunicate the trads before he'll excommunicate a German bishop that says Skittles marriage is okay. That's just the unfortunate truth. But anyway, let's read the document. SSPX announces July 1st, 2026, they will consecrate new bishops without Vatican approval, which will be an official act of schism after having made a request of Pope Leo in August, whose answer was not to their liking. Here's the document here. Communique from the General House. On February the 2nd, 2026, the Feast of the Purification of the Blessed Virgin, the Reverend Father David, I can't even read the name, Superior General of the SSPX, during the ceremony of the taking of the cassock, in which he presided over at the International Seminary, so on and so forth. You get the point. I'm not going to read this whole thing. Basically says, hey, dude, we're consecrating our own bishops, and we're going to do it this time. So you tell us what you want to do, but we're doing this anyway, because you won't allow us to do it. So either you're going to give us your permission, or you're going to be the cause of a new schism. They're calling Pope Leo's bluff. So this was the news as of today. So new schism in the Roman Catholic Church. Schism begets schism. We're going to see less places for people to go. So the whole kind of argument by a lot of these papal apologists is that, well, you know what? It's not like every mass is like the Novus Ordo, like these clown show masses, so on and so forth, because we have the Uniates and we have the traditional Latin Mass. Well, guess what? Now you're going to be down an option. Now it's basically going to be the Uniates or the Novus Ordo. Okay, that's what it's going to boil down to. And this is why a lot of traditional Roman Catholics are frustrated and angry about this situation. We actually saw quite a few people calling this out. And the Pope-splainers, the guys like, the guys that are basically more ecumenists, the ones that really don't like apologetics, the ones that really don't like, they'll like relegate orthodoxy to online orthodoxy, or the Orthodox that we actually like, which are like the ecumenist Orthodox. All right. They're celebrating. They love the fact that there might be some kind of schism. They love this. They want the trads out. They have the same mindset as Pope Leo as far as the traditional Roman Catholics are concerned. They want them out. So there was a couple of people that were commenting on this today. Let me see if I can find a video, unless he deleted it. Okay, here you go. I'm going to pull up this video. This is from Anthony from Avoiding Babylon, talking about some of these Roman Catholics celebrating the fact that some of these trads might have one less place to go.
While since I did one of these truck videos, watching the news this morning about the SSPX consecrating new bishops, the thing that stands out to me the most is the absolute glee that some people have at the prospect of excommunications coming down, and the labels of schismatic and this and that. Now, these are the same people who will bend over backwards to tell you how Protestants are our separated brethren and we need to treat them with the utmost charity, and the Orthodox pray for the unity of the East and West and want the East and West to then become a unified church once again. But then when they see their Catholic brothers and sisters who just want to be able to go to Mass in the ancient rite and believe the doctrines from before the council. Those people, they cannot wait to cut off. It's a very strange situation to watch. The fact that they don't want Rome to help consecrate bishops for the society, like the society cannot continue on without bishops. They will just die off and they'll be crushed if they have no bishops. They're down to 2 left, I think, from the original consecrations back in the 80s from Lefebvre. And they've been trying to get this worked out for years. We've heard the rumors about this happening for years. We've discussed it on the show a bunch of times. But it's really baffling to me to watch Catholics excited about this. I don't get it. Like, this should be heartbreaking for anybody who genuinely cares about the good of others' souls. Like, you don't want to see a schism. I don't know how it's going to pan out. I'm not qualified to even understand the ramifications of this entire thing. I don't think that the entire SSPX gets excommunicated if this happens.
Anyway, you get the point. She's talking about the response of many of the Roman Catholics online celebrating the potential schism, the SSPX, being excommunicated from the Roman Catholic Church, and saying this is a good thing because they're sick and tired of the trads. You know why they're actually sick and tired of the trads? Because they call out the scandal in the church and they try to hold people accountable. So when the SSPX is out, if it comes to pass that they're out, they're excommunicated, Pope Leo actually does something, guess who's going to hold the Roman Catholic Church accountable? No one. Not a single group. The trads are the only ones doing this. You get rid of the trads, you get rid of all of the accountability in the Roman Catholic Church. That's what Leo wants, by the way. So it's a good thing for him to get rid of the trads because he doesn't want people to be held accountable. He doesn't want people to push back on his agenda. Which brings us into our next story. So the Epstein files were making waves all over the internet, and for very good reason. The Epstein files contained a lot of very interesting information. Some of this, a lot of people kind of missed out on. But this was noticed, and Roman Catholics were very quick to try to deny it. They even went so far as to mass report any posts that spoke about the issue and tricked the AI on one of the articles into community noting it with 2 irrelevant articles. This is how badly they wanted to cover this up. I noticed many of the anonymous online accounts also were sharing the same exact message at the same time, saying anyone who commits calumny against Saint Pope John Paul II is going to face torment in hell and all of this type of stuff. They're basically saying if you're Roman Catholic, you cannot do this. This was the theme of Pinesap's live stream, by the way, today, his X space. He was saying if you're Roman Catholic and you're doing this, you're not Roman Catholic, you're a traitor. Because they don't want people to be held accountable. They'd rather cover it up. So let's talk about what was revealed in the Epstein files. Megatron post breaking. For a period of time, Epstein lived in the Vatican with Pope John Paul II, the assistant says. So the Vatican is involved as well. Let's see what this email says. So this is from somebody who worked as, basically they were doing remodeling for Jeffrey Epstein and things like this. And he includes something that a lot of people would miss. So it's a communication talking about his work on the Epstein estate. Dear Richard, today I was washing the brushes, cleaning all the line washes, preparing myself to go back home, as Mr. Epstein walked in. I showed him the sample. I worked last night on it, trying to express yada, yada, yada. He's talking about remodel stuff, okay? I told all this to Mr. Epstein to my surprise. He liked it. I also line washed the columns. What I called what I called bald. The covering the surface with lime wash is the initial step for finishing them. We had short conversations and we further cleared future misunderstandings. He wants me to finish each column different, as it was when he was living with Pope John Paul II in the Vatican. He looked at a variety of different columns captured in wars. He told me that every pope demanded to have a column from every conquered country. So there is a collection of different columns in the Vatican. Anyway, so basically what this guy working as a, he's doing some work on the Epstein estate, says that Epstein revealed to him that when he was living with Pope John Paul II in the Vatican, that he noticed, and Pope John Paul told him, hey, these are a number of columns that we have. These were all captured in different wars, and he liked the architecture. Well, what this reveals, though, is that he was living in the Vatican for a period of time. Now, a couple of people who are uneducated on this subject don't realize that there are papal apartments in the Vatican that guests do stay for extended stays, especially when they're working on projects, okay? And we're going to dive into some of this information. But the immediate response from the Roman Catholics was to try to cover this up, all right? Well, check out the community note that they left on this post. So this was an AI community note here. Proposed by an experimental AI contributor responding to requests for a note. They mass reported this. Okay, so they mass reported this to include a community note. Let's check out some of the responses because they're quite frankly very dishonest. All right, I noticed this. People were saying this email appears to be fabricated. So this is a fake email. This is the first response. Email appears to be fabricated. Searches of over he's basically just asking Grok. Searches of over the 3 million pages of Epstein documents released by the blah, 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 blah. These don't pop up. Here's a direct link. It's real. I linked them right to the Epstein Files website, to this file that's being referenced. So I said, here you go, no excuse. Boom. Here's a link to it. This anonymous Roman Catholic account says the email was sent in 2015. JP2 died in 2005. What does that have to do with anything? He's not saying he currently lives with JP2. Epstein's dead as well. Genius. The email was sent in 2015. JP2 died in 2005. Yeah, he's talking about the past. He's talking about when he lived with him. Not that he currently does. So, but they think people are so stupid that they'll read this and they'll say, I don't need to do any further research. I don't need to look into this any further because Become a Saint debunked it by saying the email was sent in 2015. JP2 died in 2005. What does that have to do with anything? That's like me saying the wall is purple. I was talking about this on Alex Soren streams. But apparently 1,700 people found that argument convincing and they liked it. Good grief. That's their goal, though. They don't want you to continue looking into it. Elijah Yossi said this pretty succinctly in the debate with Alex Soren. He said, my goal in this debate is to prevent Roman Catholics from leaving the church. We saw this. This is the knee-jerk reaction of Pinesap. This is the knee-jerk reaction of these Roman Catholic anons. And many of them are working together to make sure that this information doesn't get out or to hand-wave it to protect the consciences of people who are Roman Catholic, to keep them in their corrupt system. That's basically a big human trafficking operation, which we're about to go into and discuss in greater detail. Okay, more responses. Fake news. Notice they're all anons, by the way. This makes no sense. The Pope had been dead for 10 years when that email was sent. Do you guys even care that you're spreading lies and slander? You're spreading lies and slander. Okay, well, what evidence did the community note actually pull from for this mass-reported community note here? Okay, so what is the evidence? The purported email claiming Epstein lived in the Vatican with Pope John Paul II is dated for 2015, after the Pope's death in 2005. So they're tricking the stupid AI, by the way. They're tricking the stupid AI. This has nothing to do with the claim. No evidence supports Epstein residing there beyond a 2003 visit for a papal audience. Whoa, wait a minute. Isn't that before 2005? But this is the thing, though. We're not talking about this being something that happened in 2015. This was something that the file says happened in the past. It doesn't give an exact date. Okay? This is something that happened in the past. Saying the email was in 2015 has nothing to do with the claim. This is so stupid. Okay? And it says there's no evidence for this. The evidence is the freaking file. The evidence is right in front of your face. This is released in the Epstein files. What are you talking about? This is what we're talking about as new evidence. So the Roman Catholic liars that want to cover this stuff up are tricking the AI by saying, oh, is there any previous evidence that has come out to prove this claim? No, this is new evidence. This is the point of reporting on it. This is a new discovery. These people are freaking evil liars. And they are complicit in the abuse that happens in the Roman Catholic Church by covering this stuff up. Okay? Absolutely ridiculous. So what are the two sources that they used for this freaking mass report of this article? Oh, let's take a look. Pope John Paul's freaking Wikipedia page and a Snopes article that's not even related to the subject at hand. Does this picture show Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell with the Pope? Has nothing to do with what's being talked about. So they tricked an AI to community note this so that they can trick all of the stupid people that follow these anons into hand waving this and thinking that this is fake. So a big effort into covering this up. This is how far they will go. Okay. They will go as far as to mass report with their bots, with their anonymous accounts to try to cover this stuff up. And what damage does it do? What damage does this do? Well, it does quite a bit of damage when you read the rest of the Epstein files, okay? And you see the other ties that he's had. This paints a broader picture. Notice that earlier in this screen, we were talking about the Roman Catholic Church as a human trafficking operation. Well, that is brought to greater light when you examine the rest of the Epstein files. There was a good post not that long ago, it's actually today, by Ben Luigi that I'm going to share up on the screen here because he actually lays out exactly what I was going to talk about very succinctly. So I figured it's easier just to go here because he adds links to all of this stuff. By the way, if you like this coverage, make sure to support the show. Send in super chats. I really appreciate it. This is not being covered by anyone else right now. You are getting this live from the source right here on Cleave to Antiquities channel. All right, right here. Ben Luigi, the Latin copium has reached new levels. Okay. Number one, the claim, because he's pointing out people are covering this up. Pope JP2 housed Epstein. Yes, it's real. We just covered this Epstein document leak right here, the Epstein file that talks about JP2 housing Epstein. Okay. Now, you could say maybe the person's testimony is dubious, or you could say maybe the person's testimony is untrustworthy. All we're saying is this is what the file is saying. Okay. JP2 and Epstein, they had a connection. He stayed with him at the Vatican for some time. This isn't even necessarily brand new news because we already know that he was already there in 2003 for that photo, but that was more of a public address. But the other files corroborate a more intensive involvement with the Vatican between Epstein and the Vatican. Let's take a look at this. So the next one, Vatican outed as central hub for bribery scheme amongst elites. Irish Patriot shares. In 2013, Jeffrey Epstein emailed Larry Summers. The real Vatican shakeup wasn't Pope Benedict's sudden retirement. It was the leadership change at the Vatican Bank, Institute for Works of Religion. Why? As a sovereign nation, the Vatican dodges EU and Italian transparency rules, letting elites hide shady money transfers. This is why the NGOs are so important to the Roman Catholic Church. They allow them to wash their dirty money that they use for human trafficking operations. And you will see this because you'll see that actually Epstein invested in many of these NGOs. He has a monetary tie to the Vatican. Okay. Key dirt, bank president, Ettore Gotti, fired amid bribery probe. 47 dossiers uncovered internal enemies. He feared assassination for knowing Vatican secrets and cooperating with the Italian investigators. Cardinals rushed to appoint this person as the new president. Then Benedict resigned unexpectedly. Implication, bank's dark ops may have forced the Pope's exit. Let's dive into it. This is from the Epstein files. The most important change of the Vatican may not be Pope Benedict's sudden retirement, but the change in leadership at the Institute for the Works of Religion at the Vatican's bank. Because of the Vatican's status as a sovereign country, it's exempt from transparency rules, not only of Italy, but the European Union. This status allows its elite clients to evade any scrutiny in their money transfers. Last May, Vatican Bank president was fired after Italian authorities opened an investigation into far-flung bribery scheme, which he was allegedly involved. The 47 dossiers, including compromising about internal enemies of his in the Vatican, were found in the search of his home. They had instructions on how they were used in case something happened to him. The intercepted calls further revealed that his concern was that he would be assassinated because he knew the Vatican's secrets. Okay, so this is a fear of the higher-ups in the Vatican. They're afraid that they're going to be assassinated because guess what? This is an organized crime syndicate that engages in human trafficking. By late 2012, he was cooperating with the ongoing Italian investigation. It was at this point that the all-powerful College of Cardinals, in one of the last acts in the Benedict papacy, appointed German lawyer as the president of the bank. Then came the extraordinary resignation of Pope Benedict. Okay, so a couple of things confirmed here. The status of the Vatican Bank as basically the perfect way to launder money without any external scrutiny. How does the money get there in the first place? Well, guess what? Roman Catholic NGOs, Catholic charities, US CCBs, remigration funding programs, and all of these little things that they receive funding a lot of times from the United States for. So let's look into more of this information here because there's even more to share on this subject. Back to Luigi's article here. One fun fact, the Rothschilds bailed out the bankrupt Vatican in the 1800s. I don't even need to go into the article here, but the Rothschilds already have a developed tie to the Vatican Bank and to the Vatican itself. So there's already a deep tie between the Vatican and the Rothschilds family. Well, what is something that the Epstein files uncovered? Who did Epstein work for? According to his own statement, Epstein claimed to have represented the Rothschilds. This is what is implicated in the Epstein files. He was an Rothschilds operative. He says, here, I'll just read his statement here. This is from Jeffrey Epstein, sent to Peter Thiel. As you probably know, I represent the Rothschilds. From the horse's mouth there. I represent the Rothschilds. I was hoping to figure out a way for the bank that has 160 billion in management can do something in tech. So basically, he wants Peter Thiel's expertise in tech to help the Rothschilds enter into the field of technology. So Peter Thiel, those of you that don't know who that is, tech giant, recently did a bunch of weird seminars on the Antichrist, all sorts of stuff. Anyway, correspondence with Jeffrey Epstein. Jeffrey Epstein admits to being an operative of the Rothschilds. So he's pushing forth the Rothschilds' interests. The Rothschilds already have ties to the Vatican Bank. They bailed them out. They've gave them funding in the 1800s. They've actually done this multiple times. But the Rothschilds have intensive ties to the Vatican. It is no wonder that Jeffrey Epstein had clearance to stay in the papal apartments because he was an asset of the Rothschilds. All of these things tie together. This is why it's such a big deal that the Roman Catholics are trying to cover this up. Okay? They want to cover this up. This ties into other areas as well. I'm going to share this. If that wasn't already a big... Let me share this piece here. Because some of the funding... Let's see, hold on one moment. There you go. Some of the funding that Jeffrey provided is very interesting. And notice his tie was to the Rothschilds. Rothschilds that are historically tied to funding the Vatican and bailing them out, preventing bankruptcy. Well, guess what Jeffrey Epstein was doing for the Vatican? Funding them. For what? He was making donations to Catholic charities of the Virgin Islands. Whoa! Virgin Islands, where was that? That's where Epstein Island was, right? Specifically mentioning youth programs for Catholic charities. So why would Jeffrey Epstein be dumping tons of money into Catholic charities specifically for youth programs? You tell me. Let's take a look at this. Jeffrey Epstein Foundation has just donated critical funds to the Catholic charities of the U.S. Virgin Islands. This is from 2012, I think. Question mark? I'd have to go find out again. I think it was 2012. For more than 46 years, the Catholic charities of Virgin Islands, blah, 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 blah. Anyway, like many Catholic organizations, CCVI has also had a strong focus on youth education. Kids Learn and Camp Striver both offer intensive multi-week learning and sports camps to underprivileged children and continue to stay involved in the children's lives. So they offer retreats for children in the Virgin Islands. These Catholic charities that Jeffrey Epstein is funding for underprivileged children, very vulnerable, underprivileged children. Why is he just giving money out of the kindness of his heart for this Catholic charities program that happens to be operating in the Virgin Islands, where his island was? Or are we just going to pretend like this is all some big coincidence? The Roman Catholics that are covering this up, by the way, are complicit. You share the guilt of this, by the way. When you engage in cover-up culture, you share in the sins of what you're covering up for. So these children that Epstein had taken advantage of, well, somebody's going to have to explain why Epstein was making donations to these NGOs, Catholic charities, and bailing them out. His association with the Rothschilds and their history of bailing out the Vatican has already been established. We established that Jeffrey Epstein is an asset and agent of the Rothschilds. He was acting on their behest, especially in correspondence with Peter Thiel. Coincidentally, in the Epstein files, it is shown that he stayed in the papal apartments with Pope John Paul II. Not only that, he's involved in funding Catholic charities, NGOs, that have to do with providing children with retreats and camps. Okay? I don't need to go any further than that. Do you understand the implications of this? I'm going to safely assume that my audience is intelligent enough to understand where this is going. Okay? Jeffrey Epstein Foundation was founded by Jeffrey Epstein. His foundation actively supports education and youth initiatives across the U.S. Virgin Islands. Yeah, I wonder why. I wonder why. In the Virgin Islands, where his island was. Anyway, so you get the point. You get the point. All right, let's see. Let's read some super chats. All right, Ortho, $5 towards your goal. Mention how your catechism and transition for your family is going, if appropriate. Many years, Ben. It's going well. I mean, I don't have to deal with this. I'm not Roman Catholic. I don't have to deal with this craziness. It really is a mess. Pray for the Roman Catholic Church. Pray for the people that are actively covering this stuff up, that they come to repentance, their hearts change. Because that's a mess. They are complicit in this. So, one scream for that. Anemone, reminder that only 4% of U.S. Catholic parishes offer a traditional Latin Mass. Only 2% of Catholics attend a Latin Mass. Rome doesn't need them. Yep, that's absolutely true. Honestly, Leo wants to push them out to the fringes. There was a number of videos by Taylor Marshall, who unfortunately was live earlier today covering this up, by the way. Taylor Marshall was covering up the initial claim that Pope JP2 housed Epstein for a time, which is unfortunate. So you see some of this rot in the trad circles as well now, unfortunately. But yeah, they don't want the TLM. They don't want the trads. That was part of the homework there. Anyway. Yeah, making me sick. Yeah, absolutely. Horrible. But here's the thing, though. Nobody is really covering this stuff. Okay, you're probably hearing about this first on my channel, and this is because I've done extensive research into these scandals that the Roman Catholic Church likes to cover up. Their use of the NGOs we've been covering over the last couple of weeks. You can see I'm going to tie some pieces together for you guys. Okay. Notice the Cardinals pushing back on the anti-immigration narrative. Notice that these same Cardinals are funded by these NGOs that promote immigration. Notice that Catholic Charities is implicated in the scam probe that was started by Doge, okay, the USAID scam probe. The United States money was going towards this human trafficking operation that would bring people from other countries into the United States. Not only are they implicated in that, as you can tell from the Epstein files, they are running camps for people in the Virgin Islands that are funded by freaking Jeffrey Epstein. Catholic Charities is running retreat camps for kids that are funded by Jeffrey Epstein. Say that again. Absolutely ridiculous. And this is what they want to cover up. Lord of mercy. So yeah, bombshell there. You're not going to see this covered in many other places. People might become hip to it, but you have to dive through the documents to notice this kind of stuff. Lepanto Institute, that is a Roman Catholic publication, so good on them for pointing this out, by the way. Some trads still have integrity, so I really respect the traditional Roman Catholics that are calling this kind of stuff out and want to see this, corrected. In a little more funny finding from the Epstein files in relation to the Vatican, I'm going to share this post here. I think Jay actually shared this. No, so Jay was talking about this earlier in his show. I'm going to go ahead and share this real quick. On December 15th, 2010, Pope Benedict received a performance of shirtless gymnasts who performed in a Skittles circus, which confused a lot of people. December 28th, Boris Nikolic sent an email to Jeffrey Epstein saying, "Hope you put the Pope to shame with your gymnasts." So December 15th, 2010, Pope Benedict has these Skittles gymnasts there. December 28th, an email sent to Jeffrey Epstein saying, "I hope you put the Pope to shame with your gymnasts." So implying that Epstein actually provided these gymnasts for this weird papal display. Let's take a look. Well, and I'm going to mute this so I don't get copyright strike. Yeah. It's just a bunch of Skittles dudes doing like bunch of buff shirtless Skittles dudes doing gymnastics for the Pope. I hope this put the Pope to shame. This is like some big shaming ritual by Epstein, sending Skittles gymnasts for the Pope. Benedict's just like, that's so funny. Yeah. He stands up. He's out of breath. Good grief. Yeah, they're all, wee-hee, woohoo. Yeah, anyway. Yeah. Hey, how are you? This is the email from the Epstein files. Hey, how are you? Hope that you put the Pope to shame with your gymnasts. I've been working around the clock, hence the silence, leaving tomorrow morning. What are you doing for New Year's, et cetera, et cetera. So, I mean, there's multiple things to talk about the Vatican within the Epstein files. It's absolutely crazy. It's funny. They have the hot clergy calendar in Rome. They didn't let it slide. They cheered. Yeah, what a mess. What a mess. Yeah, exactly. I thought Benedict looked more confused. Yeah, he did. He was like, what am I looking at? What the heck? Yeah, that was like a shaming ritual from Epstein. What a mess, dude. Just discovered your Roman Catholic news analysis as an ex-trad. I hope content like this will help open the eyes of all my friends. God be with you. Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, that's the point. And here's the thing, dude. If there are trads watching this, you know, that are never going to leave the Roman Catholic Church, I at least hope that they become knowledgeable about this kind of stuff going on so they can protect their kids, dude. I mean, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. We don't want families to suffer. We don't want people to suffer in this institution. And we don't want, you know, if somebody's going to stay there, I mean, that kind of sucks. I'd like for you to become Orthodox, but if you're going to stay there, at least be freaking aware not to leave your kids in some summer camp, you know, in the Roman Catholic Church. Because for all you know, they could be funded by freaking Jeffrey Epstein, like we just seen. That gives you one scream. By the way, if you want to support the show, help send in a super chat. I'm only 6 out of 15 to goal. So if you want to support the show, I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. Humiliation ritual for the Pope himself. Mercy. Yeah, that's a mess. All right, so I have more news coverage to share. Believe it or not, I'm not done yet. There's a lot of news to share. All right, let me go ahead and I'll pull up the next thing. Epstein file stuff. I mean, that is mind-blowing. I don't know if I'm going to be able to top that, but there is, in fact, more news to share. All right, one moment. I'm going to go ahead and pull up the next article. A little bit of a palate cleanser for you all. Some funny Roman Catholic news to share. I'm going to go ahead and pull up on my screen here. Hold on one second. All right. German Catholic Church pushes promotional video for their upcoming Harry Potter Mass. 500,000 people leave the German Catholic Church each year. Let's take a look at their promotional video. So in Germany, this is the same church basically that had the goo monster Jesus nativity scene. Well, now they're doing a Harry Potter Mass. German Catholic Church schedules blasphemous Harry Potter service to be held in Sacred Heart Church. Let's take a look at this.
Expecto Patronum.
Bitte dein Angesicht und schenke dir seinen Frieden.
I hope that doesn't copyright strike me, but
Amen.
I'm going to mute this so it doesn't copyright strike me. But you get the point. Yeah. They get a lady in the sorting hat. We're going to have a nice Harry Potter witchcraft mass. Ooh, I'm going to cast a spell on you. Save the date for the Harry Potter Mass, y'all. Somebody was saying at least they're doing the witchcraft in Latin or something. Dude, so imagine this is like your first time attending a Roman Catholic church. You just got convinced Protestantism is fake. Okay. So you just got convinced Protestantism is fake. And you go there and the Roman Catholic Church is just hosting a freaking Harry Potter dress-up mass. Your priest is dressed up like he's like, go Gryffindor, yay! And this is what you're exposed to. Roman Catholics, once the SSPX is excommunicated, this is pretty much all you're going to have left. Okay? This is Novus Ordo in a nutshell. Now, granted, the Germans are a little way further left. But this is essentially what you're remaining with. You're basically Protestant. So you've got Hagrid being the reader, some woman with the sorting hat, basically playing dress-up mass. So Roman Catholic Church, Halloween Mass. You know where you're not going to have a Harry Potter Mass? In the Orthodox Church. I'm just saying, you're never going to have a Harry Potter Divine Liturgy service in the Orthodox Church. It's never going to happen, right? Because we still use the same liturgy from the time of St. John Chrysostom. So liturgical changes actually have a bigger impact than you'd think. Liturgical changes have a whole bunch of effects downstream. When the Roman Catholic Church altered their liturgy, when they completely abandoned their historical liturgy, which actually wasn't super historical, but at Vatican II, and they introduced the Novus Ordo, notice how many things changed. You've got Harry Potter Mass. We've done a compilation of videos where they had Barney Mass. They have the Pride Masses going on that are rampant all over the place. So these things are all over the place in the Roman Catholic Church. So now when you have the potential convert that's thinking about Roman Catholicism, you're no longer going to have this kind of assuaging of their conscience saying, look, you don't have to attend a Novus Ordo. You don't have to attend the clown mass. You can go to a traditional Latin mass, a TLM, the SSPX. Those are going to be gone. Now you're only going to have uniate services and this. So you're either going to have to attend a fake knockoff of the Orthodox Church or attend the Novus Ordo. Why wouldn't you just go for the real thing? Come to the Orthodox Church. You're basically going to have to suffer through a fake version of the Divine Liturgy in a uniate church, or attend Harry Potter Mass. That's going to be your options. So coming up soon to a Novus Ordo near you. Stilgar, $10. Appreciate you, bro. Thank you so much for the super chat. I appreciate it. You get one scream for that. For the spooky Harry Potter Mass. God bless from the Ortho Thugs. Hey, appreciate you. $5 from Unum Sanctum. Most RCs I know already don't trust their kids around clerics. One of the many blessings of becoming Eastern Orthodox is being able to trust priests not to be PDF plus. Yeah, I mean, I certainly, if you're new to your parish or whatever, you want to make sure you check out the program and stuff, because normally it's like lay people teaching Sunday school or something, if there is some kind of Sunday school after Divine Liturgy program. In my church, though, it's very nice. We do a coffee hour, and the Sunday school is in the room attached to where we do coffee hour. So I can literally just keep an eye on my kid as they're going to Sunday school. So I don't have to worry about that at all. So it's really cool and awesome. Obviously, yeah, it's really sad the state of things in the Roman Catholic Church. You really can't. You can't send your kids on these retreats. You just can't. Have some discernment if you are in the Roman Catholic Church. Very spooky. Epstein learned his rituals from the Catholic Church in Ireland. What do you mean by that? Learned his rituals? Is there something that I'm missing? Is there some weird stuff going on in the Roman Catholic Church in Ireland? I mean, I'm sure there is weird stuff. There's weird stuff going on all over in the Roman Catholic Church, as we've covered on this program. Father Tim, I would submit that liturgical abuses are more destructive than doctrinal clashes. Yeah, well, the problem is with the Roman Catholic Church, these aren't even abuses. This is just the way, this is just what it's opened up for, right? Their statement on these liturgies, basically boiling them down to a free-for-all, being able to do whatever they want, has ended up in this Harry Potter Mass. And these aren't even abuses. This is just something that they've accepted within their paradigm. This is just normal for them. So absolutely crazy. All right, let's see. Anything else in the chat? Yeah, same at my church. The kids go down 10 minutes early, but we all have coffee hour in the same room. Yeah, exactly. Yep. And that, that makes me feel good. I can keep an eye on the kids. And then, I can go have coffee hour with the boys and chat with them. Chat with the priest, hang out and stuff, and then keep an eye on the kids. You know what I mean? I discerned between Roman Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy for 2 years. If I went Roman Catholic, I would have joined an SSPX parish. Many such stories. Absolutely. I suspected this would happen to them. I'm so glad I went East. This is what I'm saying. I don't want people who are discerning their way out of Protestantism to waste their time in the Roman Catholic Church because they feel like they can chase this pipe dream of a pre-Vatican I traditional Latin Mass. It's just like in the edits. You've got the based priest, they're ad orientem. They've got all the incense going up. They're singing in Latin, all these beautiful hymns. They're listening to the Media Vita, all this stuff, oh, so beautiful. We love the Latin. It's beautiful. And that's why I want to become Roman Catholic, because it's a tie to the past. And I feel that, I'm European. I have this Western kind of lineage, and I want to reconnect with my ancestors. So I feel drawn to this, Latin worship or whatever. And then they go into the Roman Catholic Church and it's not there. It's not there. And they're shutting them all down, and they're kicking all these freaking trads to the curb, right? So you're wasting your time. You're uprooting your life going into these Roman Catholic churches And then you don't even get, the Latin Mass, right? Not to say that the Latin Mass is even in and of itself an innovation. Okay, the Gregorian reforms. This is in and of itself an innovation. The pre-modern, right? The pre-denominational Mass, the liturgy of St. John Chrysostom was celebrated East and West, and is still celebrated in the Orthodox Church. So you really want to be tied to your ancestors, become Orthodox. Even the churches in the first millennium looked like Orthodox churches. Even the churches in Rome in the first millennium looked like the Orthodox churches. So anyway, yeah, worship matters so much. The hymnography is chock full of theology. They aren't Jesus love songs. The hymns in our worship teach us and guard our faith. Absolutely. Yeah. Horrible. All right, let's take a look. Octavian, $2. Cats and prots are in a race to absurdity. That's exactly what it seems like. We see a lot of these crazy masses coming out of the Protestant churches as well. But, they're creeping into Roman Catholicism, and they're becoming an almost daily occurrence. Notice this is a weekly segment. Everything I've reported on today is just the news from this week. All right? Just the news from this week. Same thing with last week. Same thing with the week before that. This is a weekly segment. So this is the frequency of these crazy freaking events in the Roman Catholic Church. It's absolutely insane. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate you. We're getting closer to goal. Only 4 more teal super chats to goal. Help me reach the goal before the end of the stream. I really appreciate it. I'm going to move on because I do have more news stories to cover, if you can believe it. I've got a lot of news stories to cover for this show. So let's keep going. Let's keep chugging along with this train wreck and dive into more stories. So this one was interesting. We're going to go back into the subject of these bad appointments. So we were talking about the appointments of pro-Skittles clergy to the cardinalate, to the head of dicasteries, so on and so forth. All right, well, we have even more of these kind of Skittles appointments to discuss in this show. Again, these matter because this is a subject of continuity. What is the next papacy going to look like? What is the upcoming administration going to look like? People who are appointed to these positions, this is about legacy. All right. This isn't just about policy change in the now. This is about legacy, lasting change in the Roman Catholic Church. One thing that Timothy Gordon reported on very good in the appointment of Pope Leo is that Francis appointed more cardinals than any other pope in the history of the Roman Catholic Church. More cardinals. Why is that? So his legacy could continue on. Pope Leo is somebody that was handpicked by Francis. They met every single freaking Saturday, dude. I kid you not. They met like every Saturday. He was well acquainted with Francis. He was groomed to be his replacement. All right. So this is about legacy. All of these appointments are about legacy. So let's continue on in that theme. So more news about crazy appointments in the Roman Catholic Church. All right. Sign of the Cross, LifeSite News reports Pope Leo appoints new bishop who rejects Catholic teaching on marriage and this. Pray for the church. Pope Leo appoints bishop who rejects Catholic natural law teaching on this. He wants to introduce contraceptives into the teaching of the church. So let's dive into this. This is from LifeSite News. Pope Leo appoints bishop who rejects Catholic teaching on this here. Father Cyril has proposed a new way of evaluating marriage and this adult relations. How about we'll say that, adult relations. Departing from natural law principles reaffirmed in Humanae Vitae and the Catechism of the Catholic Church. Pope Leo appointed Father Cyril as the new bishop of Calibo in the Philippines, drawing renewed attention to unorthodox theological positions he defended in an academic thesis on marriage and adult relations. On January 24th, Pope Leo appointed him as the bishop of the Diocese of Calibo, located in the central Philippines. The decision has drawn attention over his previous academic work in moral theology, in which the new bishop questioned the natural law framework underpinning the church's traditional teaching on marriage, on adult relations, and contraception. So 3 subjects he wants to reform within the Roman Catholic Church: marriage, adult relations, and their teaching on contraception. Okay, so you should be allowed to use contraceptives, is his opinion. In his 2011 academic work submitted to the University of Vienna, he noted that he intended to present a new way of looking at adult relation morality through the Trinitarian love and not anymore through the natural law perspective. So love is love, dude. Love is love. Oh, love is love. We're gonna be loving in the Roman Catholic Church. We're gonna be loving in the Roman Catholic Church. You're gonna have some contraceptives in the church. You get it. On one hand, there is the magisterium of the church imposing their teaching on adult relations, which invokes the power of the natural law springing from the divine law. He wrote, on the other hand, the laity clamor about the difficulty of what the church imposes on them. Man, it's too hard. It's too hard not to be touching these boys' butts. It's too hard. This stuff is way too hard. I can't help myself. 80% of the clergy, y'all. 80% of the clergy can't help themselves. We got to reform this teaching ASAP. Ridiculous. All right, so they talk about how hard this is. This is such a bad task. You're making it way too hard on us. The big question is, why can't the church change its teaching on adult relations? Listen, we already got 80% of the clergy doing this. Just change the teaching. This is what this guy is putting forth, and he gets promoted for it, by the way. So he's promoted for saying, you know what? It's a little too hard not to be a sodomite. Can we just change the teaching of the church so we can just do this? Anyway, he suggested that traditional teaching no longer applies because times have changed. You got to get with the times, bro. Get with the times, dog. Babies survive birth at much higher rates than in previous centuries. In the past, there was a problem, the high rate of mortality among babies. Thus, in that context, it may seem logical. The church should declare that in the light of the natural law, each and every act should be open to procreation, but times have changed. We live in a completely different world, far different from that of Thomas Aquinas he's talking about, or even those who lived immediately after him. Now we have a high rate of survival he's talking about contraceptives in this subject here. He opposed 3 things, okay? Now he's talking about contraceptives here. Have a high rate of survival for babies. Women are employed for financial reasons. So women should be working. Feminism, go feminism, woohoo! For self-fulfillment and in the name of women's emancipation. We're going to liberate these women, y'all. Women's emancipation. Yeah, we're pro-feminist in the Roman Catholic Church. Oh yeah, pro-feminist. Such a changed environment surely affects also the number of children that women would have to bear and rear. So he's saying women should have less kids. These are the people that you're promoting, dude. In the introduction to his thesis, he explains the work is divided in 2 parts. While the first part presents what he calls the orthodox teaching of the church on marriage and adult relations, the second part elaborates on an opposite view from that which the church upholds. He states the overall aim is to arrive at a more integrated view of adult relations and marriage, juxtaposing these perspectives. So he's saying, we got to get with the times, y'all. 80% of the clergy are Skittles. So we just got to allow it. We have to allow it. We have to allow contraceptives. We got to allow Skittle stuff. We got to allow people to just do what they got to do. Feminism is good. Don't you understand this? Women should be girl bossing, out there girl bossing every day. Anyway, you get the point. Okay, so he pushes all this stuff and he gets promoted for it. Leo's like, woo, I like that. That's good. That's the church of the future right there. You're getting a promotion, dog. Notice what we saw with the SSPX debacle. Where do the appointments of bishops come from? Who has to give the A-OK for each of these appointments? It's Leo. It's Leo. That's the whole thing. The SSPX is saying, dude, can we appoint some bishops? Can you give us some bishops, dude? Leo's saying, nah, I'm not doing that. But this guy's like, you know what? Maybe we should touch butts. And Leo's like, yes, promoted. You're getting a promotion. Traditional Latin Mass, bam. Touching butts, bam. You get the point. So this is what's going on. This is about legacy. So in a more serious note, this is about legacy. We'll see more and more of this stuff in the next pontificate because he's laying the groundwork to be able to integrate the Roman Catholic Church with more of these secular values. Okay, so feminism, the Skittle stuff, and all of these things, there's a common thread in all of these high-level appointments. It's more and more liberal. It's more and more opposed to traditional Christian morality. This is a new church. So make no mistake, when he makes statements like we covered in Alex Soren's show, where, you know, I'll just go ahead and I'll cover that now, actually. We'll dive into that. The statements that he made regarding basically being able to change whatever he freaking wants in the church. Okay. That's basically a statement by Pope Leo. Let's dive into that because we talked about that in Alex Soren's show, but I'll briefly touch on the subject here. So, well, that's game over for Roman Catholics. Leo declares your church's morality and doctrine are all subject to change at any time. There's no coming back from this. Catholic News Service Rome, Pope Leo, the entirety of our faith, so all of it, doctrine, worship, morality, etc. It is not static but dynamic, so meaning it can change. This is Pope Leo's statements. It develops and is more deeply understood by the church over the centuries under the guidance of the Holy Spirit. The church preserves and interprets it in Jesus' name. So notice a couple of things here, because people are going to say this is just Newman's doctrinal development. No. The entirety of the faith, all of it. This would include dogma. This would include doctrine. This includes morality. All right. Morality is supposed to be objective. We talked about this in Alex Soren's show if you want to see a more in-depth coverage of this. But we walked through basically a couple of different examples where the church has recently flip-flopped on statements that were supposedly dogmatic previously, and some that were doctrine that were held for a very long time, and did a 180 on it. This is not development. This is a complete renovation. This is a change. This is a 180. This is a contradiction to previous teaching. We pointed out co-mediatrix, co-redemptrix. These terms were actually in previous papal decrees declared basically to be dogmatic terms. Now they're saying you can't even use them anymore. Okay. Also, you were to talk about the death penalty. Previously, this was actually enacted by the Roman Catholic Church. They would put blasphemers to death. They would, they had their own executioners. They would enact the death penalty all the time. As a matter of fact, they said that this was a necessity for people who were Skittles, that they should be handed over to the authorities to basically be given over to the death penalty. Okay. But in recent years, Pope Francis, Pope Leo has said that it is actually implicitly immoral to enact the death penalty, to use it, and that it infringes on human dignity. So it's a complete 180. All right. So this is not development. This is a complete contradiction and change. So he's basically saying, I'm not playing by the rules, by the way. I can do whatever I want. Okay. Not to mention, Leo is casually preaching condemned heresy according to Vatican I, which states, if anyone says that it is possible that at some time given advancement of knowledge, a sense may be assigned to the dogmas propounded by the church, which is different from that which the church has understood and understands. Let him be anathema. So if you are deviating from the faith once handed down according to the Roman Catholic Church, in the sense of dogmatic decrees, declarations, then you are anathematized. Well, wait a minute. Pope Leo said all of the faith is dynamic. All of it can change. All of it. The entirety of our faith. That includes dogmas. Okay. Trads were pointing this out. Anthony Stein pointed this out. He said, oh, great. So we preserve the church by changing it. Okay. We talked about this in Alex Soren's show, so I don't want to spend too much time recovering this, but you get the point. A bunch of trads noticed this was a big issue. This is actually condemned heresy based on Vatican I. We responded to a video that Cameron Riker made responding to me. So if you want to check that out, go check out that Alex Soren show after we're done here. But the main point is this. If the supreme head of your church, who could be judged by no man, basically says, I'm not playing by the rules, I can change everything, including morals, that is a system-level defeater. Yeah. It means your system's subjective. Anyway. All right. So that's what they're gearing up for. That's why Leo's making statements like this. This is why the trads are freaking out that Leo's making statements like this. And the sophists like Catholic Answers and the same Anon that was covering up for the Epstein files are trying to cover also for the statements of Leo. They're professional Pope splainers. Notice that the previous generation of Pope splainers no longer do it anymore. Like Michael Lofton doesn't really do the Pope splaining thing anymore because it drives you insane, the amount of cognitive dissonance that it takes to have to do that consistently. So they don't do it anymore. The new generation, they're not burned out of it yet, but they will be eventually. So they don't mind basically lying to cover for Leo as much. But they will. They'll get burned out of it eventually. All right, so let's continue on. So I just wanted to cover that briefly. If you want to see more coverage on that particular subject, go check out the stream that I just did with Alex Soren, where we break down some of those claims. Oh, yeah. Let me show this. So we were talking about the SSPX potential schism, where the SSPX is upset that Leo will not grant them bishops. Alex Stein had a funny take on this. I thought was pretty funny. So you remember Cardinal Fernandez we're talking about. He was the book, he wrote the book called like Love Me With Your Mouth or something. He wrote a bunch of explicit texts that came to light. And he is the head of the dicastery for the doctrine of the faith. So it's a very powerful man, Cardinal Fernandez. So in relation to the SSPX drama, Anthony Stein had this comment here that I thought was pretty funny. He said, I mean, how's he wrong? So breaking SSPX to consecrate new bishops without Rome's approval. Comment on his YouTube show said, imagine being in the SSPX and knowing the Skittles adult media author Kissy Fernandez is going to pronounce whether or not you're in union with the Vatican. so yeah, it's like the head of the dicastery, the doctrine of the faith, is basically like this adult media author. They call him Kissy Fernandez because Cardinal Fernandez wrote that book it's called Heal Me With Your Mouth. That's what it's called. He wrote a bunch of other stuff that was pretty gross. We've covered in other segments here. That's super funny. Anyway, we got a couple of, here you go. Catholic Church is an NGO posing as a religious institution. Absolutely. Yeah, and the discovery from the Epstein files, that is going to be a key clip, by the way, because nobody else is discussing all of those pieces tied together that paint this broader picture. Look, if you're going to take nothing else away from this entire segment, remember this. The Roman Catholic Church is running camps for underprivileged kids that are funded by Jeffrey Epstein. Catholic Charities is hosting summer camp getaways for underprivileged kids funded by Jeffrey Epstein. That should tell you all you need to know. Anyway, that gives you one big scream. So, yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, heal me with your mouth. That's disgusting. All right. I've got more to cover. More news. It never ends. The news is endless. Endless amounts of news. Okay. Let's see. All right. So a little bit of background on the royal decree by the Spanish government, which naturalized hundreds of thousands of illegal immigrants in Spain. Well, this person is right to point out that the Roman Catholic Church laid the groundwork for this decree to happen. It seems the bishops have been laying the groundwork for this week's royal decree, legalizing 500,000 illegals in Spain. 500,000 illegals made citizens of Spain. The Roman Catholic Church paved the way for that to happen. What are we to make of this? The Catholic clergy worldwide are almost universally in favor of unrestricted illegal immigration at the expense of Western nations. Spanish bishops call for regularization of 500,000 migrants. This is from 2014. So a year ago, a little over a year ago, they were calling for this exact move by the Spanish government. So as I said earlier, the Roman Catholic Church is directly involved in the naturalization of 500,000 illegal migrants to be welcomed in as citizens of Spain. They are heavily invested in migration. They make money off of it. They are funded to do so. These lobbies fund them to push these narratives. The hierarchs are all complicit. They want this to happen. Why is that? Because the Roman Catholic Church is one big human trafficking operation. Pretty much. All these NGOs, that's what they're involved in. Human trafficking. That's why the Jeffrey Epstein funding camps for little kids in the Virgin Islands, that should concern you. Right? Because this is what they're involved in. And this is what they're lobbying for. And this is why Pope Leo says in his statements, he opposes ICE. He's opposing the deportation of illegal immigrants in the United States, so on and so forth. That's why they're pushing to have greater access for the illegal immigrants in detention centers. Right? They want to obtain custody of these people. Anyway, you get the point. So yeah, that point is going to get basically driven home. Even Roman Catholic clergy are calling this out, like Father James Altman, which, to be fair, some background on Father James Altman. He's very outspoken. He is still a valid Roman Catholic priest. He's not schismatic. He was removed from serving at his parish. He's kind of in like a state of limbo, but he's still a Roman Catholic priest. He hasn't been defrocked, so he is still in communion with Rome. But he says this. The UK, England, is now the SA capital of Europe, and we all know why. Those three fake Catholic cardinals, Blaise Cupich in Chicago, Joseph Night Baby Tobin in Newark, Bob McElroy in DC, who blatantly and publicly support illegal invaders, and every bishop who's quote-unquote Catholic charities. This is the same organization that Jeffrey Epstein was funding, by the way. Okay. So same organization, Catholic Charities, that's running the youth retreats and camps for kids in the Virgin Islands that were funded by Jeffrey Epstein, okay, received billions to aid and abet the invasion, including hundreds of thousands of minors sold as, you can read that here, slaves of a particular sort and slave labor. And he says they can burn like they so richly deserve. Notice these three fake Catholic cardinals are in deep blue cities. Are you angry enough yet? Okay. So he's calling it out. The clergy are aware that this is what's going on with Catholic charities. They're aware of it. Okay. That this is what is going on. Catholic charities receive billions to aid and abet the invasion. Hundreds of thousands of minors are being this. So this is what's going on in the NGOs. So, I mean, the United States, these other countries, look, we need to stop funding Catholic charities, need to stop funding the USCCB, need to stop funding these Roman Catholic NGOs. If you're a Roman Catholic, I mean, this is where your tithes are going. You're a Roman Catholic churchgoer and you're tithing to your church. This is what your money is supporting. Okay. And the clergy are admitting it. And they're saying this is what's going on. Through the NGOs that we just talked about on the show are implied in this operation funded by Jeffrey Epstein. So yeah, are you angry enough yet? Yeah, I know. That doesn't begin to even cover it. Right. But Father James Altman, good on you for calling this out. Again, this is a Roman Catholic church, or a Roman Catholic priest that is in communion with Rome. He's still in communion with the Roman Catholic Church. He's not serving publicly at his parish right now for some of his statements, but he hasn't been defrocked. He is still a actual priest in the Roman Catholic Church, Father James Altman. He's very outspoken, calls his stuff out quite a bit. So respect to him for admitting that this is going on, as the documents point to. And that's what these three are defending. So again, not just me making stuff up. Even the clergy of the Roman Catholic Church admits that this is what is going on. So a bunch of stuff that you're going to see involving these NGOs and immigration have to do with that particular subject. It's very unfortunate. I mean, I'm sure a lot of this information is going to become more available to the normies in the coming years, as it always is. You know, you call this stuff out, people say that you're stupid and you're lying and all this other stuff, and then eventually you're vindicated as the files come publicly. I mean, look at the number of things that Jay had talked about on his show that he was recently vindicated on in the Epstein files. So if you haven't checked out his streams on those are super, super key, super important. Another couple of interesting things, I didn't bookmark these, but something interesting to point out about the Epstein files as well is they indicate that Epstein was involved in Ukraine supporting Zelensky. So interesting to see those ties there as well. All right, so I have a couple more stories to cover. Only 3 more teal super chats, and we reach goal. So if you want to support the show, help me reach the goal. It'd be good. All right, let's see. Let me check up on the. People are just arguing in the chat. Oh yeah. Oh boy, Father Altman just signed his excommunication papers. Respect. Yeah, exactly. He's putting his livelihood on the line, pretty much. He's putting everything on the line to call this stuff out. So respect for Father Altman for calling out that the NGOs are basically a big human trafficking operation. Absolutely. Yeah, I'm going to check out the Ortho Church. Hey, praise God. That'd be good. Absolutely. Yeah, go this Sunday to Divine Liturgy. And hey, if you ever want to reach out, feel free to send me an email. We can talk about Orthodoxy. So, yeah, all glory to God. Come home, man. Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah, are you a Roman Catholic? You have like a Pepe Crusader profile picture? Are you Roman Catholic? Yeah, let me get W's in the chat for Sierra. W in the chat for Sierra. Wanted to check out the Orthodox Church. Yeah, there you go. W. Yeah, he is. So Roman Catholic that is wanting to check out the Orthodox Church. Praise God. W's in the chat for that. Say a quick prayer for this person. Absolutely. See, these words aren't wasted, right? This actually does help people. Yeah, it takes humility to change your mind. Absolutely. It's a Greek Orthodox church. Any thoughts on that? On a Greek, I mean, it just depends. Talk to your priest. If there are things that you're concerned about, ask him what his thoughts are on that, and that'll tell you, because really it depends parish to parish. If the priest is not cool with some of the stuff that El Pitoforos and things are like pushing, then I mean that tells you one thing, or so on and so forth. So just speak to the priest. It's going to differ. I've spoken to Greek Orthodox priests in GoArch that are probably the most based people you'll ever meet. And completely oppose some of the issues that certain hierarchs involved in that circle push. So if that is the case, then you're probably in good hands. If that's not the case, then just like anything else, go and talk to a priest at another parish, and make sure that wherever you go is going to be good for your family. They have a good community, and there's that. Some of the guests on my channel, some of the best guests on my channel have been Greek priests. Some of the most wise counsel I've ever received has been from Greek priests. Some of those beautiful liturgies I've ever attended have been in Greek Orthodox churches. So, there's a lot of beauty and richness that can be found. Thank you so much for the super chat. That is a sick Hawaiian shirt. Thanks, man. I appreciate you. Happy feast of the presentation of our Lord to those that are on the new calendar. That's right. Happy feast. Y'all ready for Lent? y'all ready to starve? Let's lock in. This Cleve stream hits different with a pinch of wintergreen. Thanks for covering the news, buddy. Hey, I appreciate you. And with that, we have hit our goal. Let's go. W's in the chat. W goal. Let's go, boys. All right. I want to continue on with the news. So I still have more to cover, believe it or not. We've already covered so much in this one episode here, but there are more stories to cover that I want to make sure that we get into. And one of these stories has to do with Cardinal Kissy Fernandez. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up this article here. I like what the trads say in their article titles. Cardinal, you get it. Gaslights critics of the synodal train wreck and meditation riddled with agnostic relativism. So let's look at the statement by Cardinal Kissy Fernandez. It is as if the prelates of the synodal religion have a terminal allergy to good old-fashioned objective truth and reality. They must peddle their false religion under the mantle of the most cunning sophistry, agnosticism, and relativism. They dress it up with the usual God is only love, mercy, tolerance, and other garbage. And their abused spouse, the deceived followers of this quote-unquote religion, who think they are Catholic, lap up their toilet water rhetoric as if it were the crystal clearest mountain spring. And of course, no discussion of toilet water would be complete without a mention of the great merchant of all that is deplorable about the post-conciliar religion, Cardinal Victor Manuel Fernandez. Fernandez must think we're all stupid. His meditation at the opening of the plenary session of the Dicastery of the Doctrine of Faith on January 27th presented itself as a call to humility, but beneath the pious language, abundant citations, and quasi-mystical flourishes was a subtle attempt to gaslight anyone who dares criticize him or the synodal train wreck. The meditation undermined Catholic doctrine of truth as usual, reason as usual, authority as usual, while recasting dissent as intellectual arrogance. So basically, don't question anything. Listen to what we have to say. Don't question nothing. Follow along with this path of synodality. Yes, with the revolting false piousness that has become a trademark of the most dangerous men operating in the synodal religion, he wants you to believe that you are incapable of making sound theological judgments or calling out the disaster that has been promoted as Catholicism since 1962. Let's take a look. All right, so this is from the Substack article here. Let me dive into it. All right. Fernandez gaslights critics of synodal train wreck. Anyway, you get the point. Let me see. Okay. All right, here's the meditation, or the discussion on the meditation. The meditation repeatedly insists that human beings cannot have a comprehensive understanding of even a small part of this world, because everything can only be understood in light of the whole. So you can't know anything, basically. While this is true in a limited analogical sense, Fernandez stretches, surprise, 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 this principle beyond Catholic teaching and beyond the bounds of intellectual decency. Classic Catholic theology, especially articulated by St. Thomas Aquinas, whatever, you get the point. He's saying that they don't teach this normally. The Cardinal's formulation shifts the discussion from epistemic humility, we do not know everything, to epistemic insecurity. So basically, he's a epistemological nihilist. You can't know anything, so why try to know anything? We cannot reliably know anything in and of itself. So there's no objective truth. No objective truth, basically. This move places him uncomfortably close to a form of modern skepticism, foreign to Catholic tradition, but common in postmodern philosophy, and safe to say, this was the devilish plan. The Church has always rejected this move. Vatican I solemnly taught that human reason can know truth with certainty, including truth about God, so on and so forth. Anyway, next, Fernandez wants you to think that we can only know by listening to others. So this was a kind of a tie-in. Recently, there was a statement made that said, Pope Leo said, nobody knows the entirety of the truth, and we can learn things from other religions. So this is what Fernandez is pulling this from, a statement by Pope Leo, who said, nobody has the complete truth. We're all kind of just working our way there. So the Roman Catholic Church doesn't have the full truth. I agree, become Orthodox. But anyway, you get the point. Second major claim, we must understand reality primarily by listening to others and embracing multiple perspectives. Sounds benign and even charitable, but beneath the way it's framed lies a more sinister strategy. Fernandez does not merely say that others can help refine our understanding. He implies truth itself is constituted through a plurality of perspectives, so religious indifferentism. No one possesses the whole truth. This formulation cited approvingly from Leo, hey, I know my stuff. See, he was talking about what I just said. is ambiguous at best and misleading at worst. It is also the entire framework upon which the synodal religion is built. You shall know the truth and what is right and wrong from listening, conversing, discerning, and journeying. But the problem is they're talking about doing this with people that are not even Christian in name. They're talking about doing this with pagans, with people outside of the church, with people that are Muslim, so on and so forth. Not just talking about inter-Christian dialogue, but inter-religious dialogue with Buddhists, Muslims, Hindus, and all of this. This is how we journey to the church, or to the truth, rather. This is Pope Francis said, there is no one way up the mountain, basically. All paths lead to God. Okay, so this is kind of the same mindset. We are all journeying towards the truth rather than the church having the truth. Well, in the Orthodox framework, the church has the truth. So if you want the truth, become Orthodox. Roman Catholic Church no longer claims it is privy solely to the truth. In other words, he wants Catholics to doubt and reject the church's gift of ultimate truth and individual gift of reason received by God. Yep, that's it. So game over, Roman Catholics. No reason to be Roman Catholic anymore. That's basically it. One of the beauties of the Catholic theology is that it's always held truth is objective, revealed by God, entrusted to the church, authoritatively taught by the magisterium. While no individual theologian exhausts divine truth, the church, as the church does, in fact, possess the fullness of revealed truth. Anyway, as the positive faith. So he's harping on the historical teaching of the Roman Catholic Church. That's dead, dude. It's dead. It's completely dead. Pope Leo literally just said that basically the entirety of the faith is dynamic, can shift at any time. He also said that they don't possess the fullness of the truth. We get this from partnering with other people and listening to them, other faith traditions, so on and so forth. So no reason to be Roman Catholic. They don't have the truth. They admit it. They don't have the truth. All right, another story here. It gets worse and worse and worse. You think I run out of stories, but this is all within 1 week, dude. Been going for 2.5 hours in this live stream. This is all 1 week's worth of Roman Catholic news, by the way. So let's continue. Spanish seminarians to be lectured by theologian who rejects the historical reality of the empty tomb. Why are Catholics denying the resurrection? Yeah, you read that right. I think, yeah. And this was Father James Altman's response to this article. He says, God damns the bishop and staff that allows this. He damns Leo if he doesn't excommunicate all of them now. So big crash out from Father Altman on this, but justified. Because at their seminaries, they're having teachers present lectures that deny the resurrection. So let's dive into this. LifeSite News. Theologian who denies Christ's resurrection, a lecture at Spanish seminary. A lot of things going on in Spain this week. Archbishop Fernandez of Santiago will preside at Mass before a lecture by theologian Andres, who rejects the historical reality of the empty tomb. Catholic theologian Andres, known for questioning the historical and miraculous nature of Jesus' resurrection, is scheduled to deliver a lecture at the major seminary in Santiago, Spain this month. January 28th, the Feast of St. Thomas Aquinas. The Theological Institute in Santiago will host a lecture entitled some Spanish stuff. Anyway, Jesus of Nazareth as Pioneer and Fulfillment of Faith. Delivered by Spanish theologian, this guy, who and the Archbishop basically approved the whole thing, and he's going to celebrate Mass immediately before the conference and then send people off to be lectured by this guy who denies the resurrection of Christ. The event, advertised on the Institute's official homepage, was organized with the explicit support of the local diocese. So the diocese supports this guy. And in particular, its archbishop. So given the thumbs up approval from the archbishop. Same archbishops that are saying that, A-OK for all of these illegals to be naturalized, by the way. Anyway. Although the lecture is organized in connection with the Feast of St. Thomas Aquinas, Prince of Theologians, the speaker is known for being one of the academics most critical of the dogmas professed by the church. In his book, The Resurrection Without Miracle, he writes, the resurrection is not only not a miracle, but is not even an empirical event. Faith in the resurrection does not depend on whether one accepts or rejects the historical reality of the empty tomb. So he says it never happened. He basically says Jesus never resurrected. This is fake news. Jesus never resurrected. And this is the people who they are bringing in to lecture at Spanish seminaries. As Info Vaticana highlighted, the responsibility for hosting the event ultimately rests with the Archbishop, who governs the Archdiocese of Santiago and is expected to celebrate the Mass immediately prior to the lecture. Torres has proposed a theological understanding of redemption that dissents from classical Catholic formulations. In various writings, he has argued that the death of Jesus on the cross could not be interpreted primarily as a sacrificial act that objectively reconciles humanity with God, but rather as a historical consequence of Jesus' conflict with religious and social context of his time, and basically says it's fake. Okay. Drawing on philosophical and theological sources such as Immanuel Kant, Rudolf Bultmann, Hegel, so on and so forth, he maintains that faith involves imaginative or symbolic. It's all symbolic. Nothing's real. It's all symbolism. That does not necessarily correspond to verifiable historical events. So it's no big deal that I deny the resurrection. This is all like some kind of symbol. In this framework, he argued the resurrection of Christ should be understood as an experience of faith by the disciples rather than as a physical event involving the dead body of Jesus of Nazareth. Furthermore, many of his theological claims are linked to liberation theology, which is condemned by the Roman Catholic Church, by the way. But they bring these people into lecture seminarians. These are who the next generation of Roman Catholic priests are being lectured by. This is who that guy who was haggling the last live stream. What's his name? What is that dude's name? The dude that said that co-mediatrix is dogma. Anyway, some young guy that wants to be a seminarian. That's basically a Twitter troll, the YouTube troll. What is his name? It's going to drive me nuts. He hangs out with Kevin from Since 33 AD. Who's that dude? Anyway, he wants to be a seminarian. These are the people he's going to be lectured by. People who deny the resurrection. Not only is he going to be surrounded by Skittles people, 88% or 80% of clergy being Skittles, but he's going to be taught by people who basically deny the resurrection. So no real ties to Christianity whatsoever. Absolute train wreck. Vegan Protein Powder Fund. Hey, thank you so much. I appreciate it. You know, one of my boys, one of the boys at church actually recommended that I do a rice protein. I got that. So I'm going to hit up the rice protein. Usually I use whey isolate, very expensive whey isolate, but I'm going to be using some rice protein for the fast days. So that'll be good. Got to keep up the gains, dude. Got to stay in shape. I do want to cut. I want to cut a little bit of weight though. But yeah. Is Jay waiting for this to end? Oh, I don't know. Is he? Anthony Westgate's in the chat. What's up, dude? Welcome to the show. Hegel's metaphysics are heavily influenced by Bohemian theosophy. Yeah. And Kabbalah. Interesting. Anthony is going to be on the show soon, actually. Anthony will be on the show Thursday at 8. Anthony Westgate will be on my show. So that'll be interesting. Yeah. And tomorrow I'm going to do a show with Father Turbo, but that'll be pre-recorded. So I'll upload that here. Yeah. Is Jay waiting for my show to end? If he's doing that, then I'll just send the people over there. I'll cover maybe one more story. Let's see. Is Jay waiting for my show to end? Because if that is the case, I'll send my peeps over there. Did Cleve talk about Epstein already? Yeah, I did. So you got me following Father Turbo. I'm cooked. Yeah. So true. I'll timestamp all this stuff after I wrap up. You know, I have maybe one more story that I'll cover. I have more saved, but I could be going on this all night talking about these various news stories. So let me share one more news story and I'll wrap up. And then if Jay starts his live, I'll send everybody over there, or you can tell me who else is going live and I'll send y'all to another live stream. So let's take a look. Which story do I want to cover last? Oh, yes. This is a big one. Okay. This is a huge one. I can't believe I didn't cover this already. Okay. Let's watch this. So this is a big deal. This was a crazy statement by Pope Leo. Okay. So he made the statement in a recent talk. He said to the Anglicans in a joint liturgy that they were doing, a joint mass, he said to the Anglicans, we're already one. We already share the same faith. Can you believe that? Pope Leo said to the Anglicans, we already share the same faith. Let's just make it official because we already share the same faith. That's what Leo said to the Anglicans. So it's official. Roman Catholics, you're Anglicans. All right, let's take a look at this. This is from LifeSite News, talking about this. Breaking Pope Leo says to Anglicans, we are already one. Is Pope Leo saying Catholics are the same as Anglicans with their women priests? Yeah, that is actually what he's saying. He's saying you already share the same faith. Let's just make it official.
Condemning abortion and contraception.
Let's take a look.
Breaking news out of the Vatican, where yesterday Pope Leo spoke at an ecumenical event closing the week of Christian unity. He praised the presence of an Anglican bishop, and he said, and I quote, "We are one. We already are. Let us recognize it, experience it, and make it visible," end quote. But can Catholics actually say?
So that's what Leo said. This right here.
Of an Anglican bishop, and he said, and I quote, "We are one. We already are. Let us recognize it, experience it, and make it visible," end quote.
So let's come into visible communion with each other because we already have the same faith. We're one. Anglicans, we're already one faith. Let's just make it real, dude. Come back into communion with us. You don't really need to change anything. We're already one faith. So let's just make it official. So if he's one with the Anglicans, I mean, the Roman Catholics are Anglican.
But can Catholics actually say to the Anglicans, we are one? That line comes from Jesus' prayer to his Father, asking for the future believers that they may be one as you, Father, and I are one. Do the Father and the Son differ on the Eucharist, one proclaiming it to be the body and blood of Christ and the other permitting it to be only symbolic? Do the Father and the Son differ on the holy orders, reserving one priesthood to men and the other ordaining women priests and even women bishops? Do the Father and the Son differ on marriage, one calling it indissoluble between one man and one woman, and the other allowing for homosexual unions even among clergy? Do the Father and the Son differ on life and sexuality, one condemning abortion and contraception and the other permitting them? Unity like that of the Father and the Son is unity in the truth, not unity in name, while contradicting each other on the essentials of our faith.
All right, so you get the point. Leo makes a statement. He says the Anglicans and the Roman Catholic Church are already one. There's no need for the Anglicans to change. They just need to come into visible communion with us. That's basically the statement by Leo. So really, if that is the case, what is the point? What is the point of becoming Roman Catholic? You're just becoming Anglican. Pretty much it. This article was going around on X for, a little bit this last week. This will be the last news story I cover, and then I'll send you all over to Jay's stream. It looks like it hasn't started yet, but I'll send you over to the lobby of Jay's stream, at least. So Pope Leo contradicts Catholic teaching. Different Catholic faith or different Christian faiths are already one. So last story here, Pope Leo says different Christian faiths are already one. This contradicts Catholic teaching, so on and so forth. Pope Leo concluded the week of prayer for Christian unity by declaring that different Christian faiths are already one. We are one. We already are. Let's recognize it, experience it, make it visible. Leo said in his Sunday homily feast at the conversion of St. Paul at the Basilica of St. Paul outside the walls in Rome. As Vatican News puts it, he stressed how different Christian religions share the same faith. So they're all the same faith. This is religious indifferentism. Okay. There's a reason he says the Roman Catholic Church doesn't have access to the fullness of the truth. It's because he believes it's present in all of these different churches. So is Leo hold a branch theory? What's the deal here? He just wants them to come into visible communion with the church. He doesn't care whether or not they teach things that are contrary to Roman Catholic teaching. It doesn't matter. We're all one faith. Just come back into communion with us so we can get your tithes. We can continue this human trafficking operation. Anyway. As Vatican News puts it, he stressed how different Christian religions share the same faith. His remarks were addressed to clergymen of schismatic and heretical churches, according to the Roman Catholics, including the Ecumenical Patriarch of Constantinople, the Armenian Apostolic Church, and the Anglican Communion. He was standing next to an Anglican bishop. when he said this, by the way. Leo's claim directly contradicts Catholic teaching. Yeah, no duh. Well, your church is completely different. Now, the Catechism of the Council of Trent affirms nobody cares what this teaches anymore. This is the Church of Leo now. Okay? Anyway, you get the point. They're going to cite all of the historical things that contradict the statement of Pope Leo. Nobody cares anymore. In his Sunday homily, Leo also invoked Pope Francis' claim that the synodal path of the Catholic Church must be ecumenical, just as the ecumenical journey is synodal. Okay? So the push for synodality, push for religious indifferentism, push for unity, a false unity between various denominations, so on and so forth, at the expense of, even some kind of semblance of truth. So if you're wanting to become Roman Catholic, according to Leo, you're basically Anglican. So do with that as you please. But anyway, I've covered a lot of news on this show. I'm going to go ahead and set this up so that it routes to Jay's stream, because he should be going live here in a moment. Let me see. Hold on. But I appreciate all the support. I'll check out in just a moment to see if I have any super chats left to address. But I'll go ahead and I'll save this to send y'all over to Jay. Let me check. Anemone, $5, 24-hour Catholic crash out stream win. Dude, I probably could, to be honest, with the amount of news that breaks every single week in these segments. That is completely possible, dude. I could probably do a 24-hour stream on this. But anyway. All right, thank you so much for watching. I'm going to go ahead and send you over to the J stream. I appreciate the support. If you're not already subscribed to the channel, go ahead and subscribe. This has been another week in Roman Catholic news. I will see you again next week. Have a good night.